The tale opens with a man perched atop a mound of lifeless bodies. He questioned Louis, his voice heavy with anguish, asking why such a fate had befallen him, recalling their bond as brothers forged through battles of life and death. Louis, with a somber tone, recounted the origin of the catastrophe. Strange rifts in space had unleashed monsters, spreading chaos across the land. These rifts, later dubbed dungeons, granted those who encountered them enigmatic abilities called classes. Thus, the class core was established to conquer these dungeons, achieving victories with relentless momentum. Louis's gaze sharpened as he fixed his eyes on the protagonist, declaring that this very triumph was why he had to be eradicated. The man had grown too powerful, a threat to the Empire's fragile order. Those with formidable class abilities could destabilize the realm, and he, having transcended even the coveted SSS rank, was the greatest peril of all. Absolute authority, Louis insisted, must reside solely with the royal family to ensure the Empire's stability. The protagonist's eyes blazed with fury as he demanded if this was merely a pretext for butchering his family and comrades. With a venomous glint in his eyes, Louis affirmed that his actions served the Empire's greater good. Before the protagonist could draw another breath, Louis unleashed a devastating explosion, revealing he had sabotaged the man's armor long ago. The blast would also deliver a toxic compound into his wounds. Knowing the protagonist would be weakened after a SSS rank battle, Louis had ensured he lacked the strength to resist. As a final gesture of respect, Louis had amassed an entire army to seal his fate. As death loomed, the protagonist's mind drifted to memories of his time with Louis. In that fleeting moment, his hidden skill, Mirror World, met its activation requirements. Mirror World, a SSS rank ability, was the ultimate power to reverse all things. His life faded, and his soul plunged into a lake. Decades later, two boys were tormenting another, binding him to a tree and submerging him in the lake's waters. One struck the boy in the gut, instructing his companion to dunk him again. As they tormented him, they mocked his suffering, deciding to hold him underwater longer to break his spirit if he persisted in resisting. His pained expression amused them, and they planned to pull him up only to beat him further. The boy, gasping, could no longer hold his breath, questioning why he was always the one to suffer. At that moment, the protagonist's soul stirred awake. A bespectacled boy approached the bullies, pleading with them to stop, warning that their victim was on the brink of death. One of the tormentors turned, his gaze dripping with arrogance, and sneered that if the boy was near death, he should heal himself, mocking the uselessness of his chanter class. He then accused the bespectacled boy of hypocrisy, noting that he had led them to their victim. If the boy died, the blame would fall on him. Panicked, the boy with glasses stammered that he had acted under duress. This enraged the bully, who raised a fist to strike him. But then, an eerie phenomenon occurred. Brilliant light erupted from the lake. The bullies fled in terror, screaming about a dungeon's emergence, far beyond their ability to handle. The bespectacled boy's attention remained on the tied-up victim, still submerged. He rushed to the ropes, desperate to free him. Suddenly, the lake vanished, its waters drained, and monsters began to materialize. As the boy with glasses fumbled with the knots, a monster lunged at him. In that instant, the bound boy seized his clothing, yanking him out of harm's way. Extending his hand, he unleashed a skill called Glacial Impact. The system notified him that he had cast Basic Heal on Minor Demon A, but the action failed as the target's HP was already full. The boy with glasses, bewildered, questioned why he was healing a monster. As the creature attacked again, he summoned a shield, deflecting the blow just in time. Opening the system's information window, the protagonist saw his name was now Yun, bound to the Chanter class. He realized he had mistakenly used a healing spell, and that this was not his original body. Typically, contact with a dungeon linked a person to the system, granting a random, unchangeable starting class. Through dungeon trials, one could grow stronger and acquire class-specific skills. Yet he had once been a warrior, a pinnacle of power, wielding Mirror World. After activating that skill, he had been trapped in its realm until he heard the dying cry of this boy. It dawned on him that he had been reborn in this boy's body, not a joyful realization, but one that fueled his gratitude to the boy for granting him a shot at vengeance. The bespectacled boy shouted to Yun that monsters were encircling them, pleading for immediate aid, as he could only fend off 3 at most. The protagonist knew his new body was frail. Even these minor foes were beyond his current strength. Escape was impossible at their speed. Checking his skill window, he found his abilities lacking. Basic Heal restored a mere 1 to 4 HP, and Entangling Vine immobilized one enemy with a low success rate. The Chanter class, while adept at support, was outmatched in every other role. It was hardly surprising that this class was perpetually scorned. For the moment, relying on his seasoned combat instincts, he could hold his own briefly. Yuna evaded the beast's assault, aware he needed a swift escape, as his endurance would falter if his stamina depleted. At this point, the concealed ability, Mirror World, was his sole chance for survival. The hero sidestepped an attack, uncertain of how the skill functioned, and then made contact with the creature, only for the skill to falter as its prerequisites weren't met. He was unsure whether his level was inadequate or if a physical mirror was required. Attempting the skill on the beast again yielded another failure due to his insufficient level. Recognizing this, he deduced that Mirror World demanded a reflective surface to activate. The level issue remained unresolved, so he opted to test it on a different target. When the hero applied the skill to the creature's weapon, it failed once more due to his low level. He tried it on a ragged loincloth, but that too was unsuccessful for the same reason. The bespectacled boy, in a panic, urged him to stop squandering time with his ineffective skills, as he couldn't hold out much longer. A surge of energy rained down from the heavens, and a creature known as a malformed overlord, level 10, emerged. The boy with glasses knew their fate was sealed. A formidable beast like this required at least level 10 to defeat. More bursts of energy descended from the sky, and his eyes widened in terror, causing him to collapse. Countless ferocious creatures materialized before them. While the hero was preoccupied with his skill, the beasts began charging toward them. Yuna couldn't even use his skill on nearby stones, wondering if the level disparity was too vast. Then the hero decided to test his skill on Xiaoyi's makeshift barrier, but the system notified him of failure, as the abilities of others couldn't be reversed. Realizing he couldn't invert others' skills, a grin spread across his face, as this implied he could reverse his own. When the hero applied the skill to his own ability, it revealed that Mirror World had successfully inverted his Entangling Vine skill. Yuna unleashed chaotic thorns, causing countless spikes to burst from the earth. When one of the creatures lunged to attack, another beast, enveloped in a crimson aura, struck it, sparing Xiaoji. He was bewildered, unsure of what was unfolding. But the hero realized the skill's effect had been entirely flipped. Instead of immobilizing, it now induced confusion. The Entangling Vine skill typically ensnared a single foe with a slim chance of immobilization. However, its reversed form, Chaotic Thorns, now unleashed thorns that lashed at a target with a slight chance of causing confusion. The creatures began attacking one another, a result of the confusion status, which prompted affected units to strike random targets. The hero couldn't suppress a smile as he realized a once useless skill had become formidable after reversal. This led him to ponder what might happen if he inverted his remaining skills. Mirror World truly earned its status as an SSS rank hidden skill. It not only flipped the effects of abilities, but also amplified their overall power. Had he used the original version of this skill, the success rate would have been minimal, with the restraint lasting a mere second at best, far from its current strength. The young hero seized a sword lodged in the ground, and couldn't help but wonder what would happen if he reversed his other skills. His focus shifted to the skill Empowered Strike, which cost 20 mana points, lasted 30 seconds, and provided a 5% attack boost to one unit, ending when mana was consumed. When Yuna inverted this skill, it transformed into Trick Blade, costing 40 mana points, lasting 60 seconds, and granting a 10% attack boost for each mana consumption. He activated Trick Blade, and his sword began to radiate a potent aura. He realized each skill use triggered a 10% increase in attack power. Trick Blade was active with 60 seconds remaining. Simply activating it meant any skill use would amplify attack power. The possibilities were staggering. Yuna leveled up, reaching level 6. He noticed many creatures had perished in their own chaos, realizing they yielded substantial experience upon death. When one creature attempted a sneak attack, the hero reacted swiftly, blocking the strike. Yuna's gaze fell on his HP bar, showing 480 HP and 120 mana points. He realized leveling up fully replenished his mana. While the creatures remained in disarray, he decided to test Trick Blade. Yuna triggered Chaotic Thorns, consuming mana points, which activated Trick Blade's effect, rapidly draining his mana while boosting his attack by 10% with each consumption. He was left with 12 mana points, but Trick Blade had granted a 120% attack increase with 44 seconds remaining. His eyes sparkled, locking onto a creature charging at him. He realized this skill shattered conventions, allowing him to achieve 2.2 times his attack power with ease. When the creature attacked, the hero parried the strike, slipped behind it, and delivered a deep slash across its back and then its abdomen. Xiaowei was stunned, unable to believe this was Yuna, observing his fluid movements. He questioned how a level 5 chanter could possess such prowess. Since when did chanters wield such skills? The hero continued battling the creatures, cutting them down one by one. With his level 6 attributes, 120 mana points, and a mana regeneration rate of 1 point per second, he calculated he could potentially achieve 2.3 times his attack strength. In a flash, he vanquished a level 11 beast and grinned to himself. He understood his current power was just enough to tackle these level 11 elite creatures. Suddenly, a hand burst from the earth. Yun's gaze locked onto it as a level 21 monster, the Battle Fiend Chimera, rose from the ground and let out a ferocious roar. It spun around and obliterated the lesser monsters with a single strike. Chawoji's eyes brimmed with terror. Meanwhile, our hero was mildly shocked to encounter a concealed level 21 boss in this dungeon. The boss charged at our hero as he attempted to cast Chaotic Thorns. The ability fizzled as the monster was resistant to chaos effect. Just as the beast was about to strike, Xiaowei leapt forward and conjured a protective shield. Yuna was slightly taken aback, and soon after, he spotted someone familiar. A blonde-haired boy scolded him, calling him a fool for rushing ahead despite warning. Our hero's eyes widened in surprise. The boss struck with immense force, shattering the shield Xiaowei had summoned and hurling his body violently to the ground. Yuna dashed toward him. He reached out and unleashed his abilities. He cast Basic Heal on Xiaowei, restoring 1 HP. This drained his mana, leaving him with 54 points. Trick Blade activated, boosting his damage by 10%. Right after, Basic Heal triggered again on Chowie, this time landing a critical hit that restored 5 HP. Our hero's mana dwindled to 1 point. He mused that a chanter's healing abilities were woefully weak and asked Chowie if he had any health potions. Chowie replied he had an emergency one, and our hero urged him to use it. His Trick Blade now had 85 seconds remaining. The boss began slaughtering the other monsters. Yun knew he wasn't yet strong enough to face this boss, but the smaller enemies were nearly wiped out. He had a strategy forming. Brandishing his blade, he told Chaoji to hold on for a moment as he planned to finish off the remaining monsters, leaving Chaoji stunned. Our hero moved like a bolt of lightning, carving through the creatures with precision. The duration of his Trick Blade expired. Yuna leveled up, restoring his HP and mana to 80-20. He reactivated Trick Blade by repeatedly casting Chaotic Thorns. Each mana expenditure fueled Trick Blade's effect, boosting his attack by an additional 10% per cast. He calculated he needed at least a 400% attack increase to defeat the boss. He continued mowing down monsters. Leveling up again, his mana climbed to 110. He cast Chaotic Thorns, gaining a 10% attack boost while his mana fell to 101. He repeated Chaotic Thorns, earning another 10% boost as his mana dropped to 92. He realized he needed to cast Chaotic Thorns 40 times within 50 seconds, requiring him to hit level 10. Chaoji stood in disbelief, unable to process what he was witnessing. Yun leveled up multiple times. The boss readied another attack, but our hero began to radiate light. He had reached level 12. His Trick Blade now boasted a 510% boost with 95 seconds left, more than sufficient to confront the boss. Yuna darted like a flash, severing the boss's arm, then reappeared behind it, unleashing a flurry of slashes that inflicted excruciating pain. Before the beast could counter, our hero diced its body into fragments. In an instant, he had slain a level 21 boss with over 10,000 HP. After defeating it, our hero gained 3 levels, reaching level 15. Chaoji was dumbfounded, wondering if he was dreaming. Could a level 5 chanter have just solo cleared an entirely new dungeon? With the dungeon lord vanquished, the dungeon was complete. He approached Yun, asking if it was truly him. The monsters dropped loot, and the system prompted our hero to collect it. Chaoji was desperate to know how Yun had grown so powerful so quickly. Yun's thoughts drifted to his past, and upon seeing Chaoji's face, he asked about his connection to Chao Benben. Chaoji was stunned, wondering how Yun knew his great-grandfather's nickname. Yuna was mildly shocked to discover Chaoji was Chao Benben's great-grandson. Memories of Chao Benben surfaced, and sadness filled Yuna's eyes as he recalled that everyone he knew had been killed by Louis. Before he could inquire further about Chao Benben, Chaoji looked away and said it wasn't the time to discuss him. If Yuna didn't want to answer his question, he didn't need to say anything. There was no need to embarrass him like that. Yuna was puzzled, unsure what was going on. Chaoji noted that, for some reason, Yun had been concealing his true strength all along. He suggested they return to school, as the next day's trip to the Modern History Memorial Hall was mandatory, and skipping classes would draw attention. Yuna couldn't help but clench his fist in anger. He agreed to follow Chaoji's advice, but deep down, he knew he couldn't reveal his true identity yet. If Chaoji dug too deeply, he might grow suspicious. Yuna pondered the Modern History Memorial Hall, realizing it might hold records of events after his death. The next day, they boarded the subway en route to school. The students buzzed with excitement. The world had transformed dramatically. Having been dead for countless years, he found the world altered beyond recognition. He was astonished to see that items from dungeons now fueled vehicles. Many unfamiliar things had emerged, though some he recalled from his dungeon explorations long ago. He accessed his system inventory, pondering whether only monster-dropped items could be removed from dungeon. He donned the Chimera Bone Ring, a level 14 artifact crafted from the rib of the battlefield Chimera, a dungeon lord of flesh and bone. It enabled the wearer to graft a chimera limb onto their body. From his inventory, he retrieved the Robust Physique skill book, a high-quality, universal-class passive skill. He noted that such equipment and skill books could be taken out via the inventory and were traded outside dungeons. He had the Resilient Physique skill active, a permanent passive ability that lessened physical damage taken. Items that couldn't be stored in the inventory after defeating a dungeon lord typically vanished with the dungeon. His eyes flickered with bewilderment. He was clueless about the events following his death. Soon, he reached the Modern History Memorial Hall, where the first sight was a statue of Louis, the supreme monarch who ended the dungeon calamities. A teacher led students through the hall, explaining that over 50 years ago, this site was the battlefield of a famous uprising. He described how dungeons once plagued them, particularly after the emergence of the terrifying Trip S-rank dungeon, which instilled widespread fear. King Louis personally commanded an elite army on a campaign, and despite severe losses, he vanquished the dungeon. But at that moment, a long-plotted rebellion struck, led by the infamous Yun, a man King Louis deeply trusted, but who turned traitor. Yuna, hearing this distorted history, seethed with anger. They were the ones who cleared the Trip S-rank dungeon and were ambushed. The teacher, clenching his fist, spoke of the agony of betrayal in such dire times. Yet, King Louis overcame this grief, fighting with valor and, with the aid of the hero Dingun, crushed the rebellion. Yuna's eyes sparked with curiosity at the name Ding Kun, questioning if such a figure even existed. The bullies who tormented Yun by the lake appeared, puzzled to see him alive. They wondered how he and Xiaoji survived being dragged into a newly formed dungeon. One bully remarked that the dungeon was cleared swiftly, likely by a nearby master, calling them fortunate. Our boy's gaze locked onto them, recognizing them as the tormentors of his body's original owner. The crowd approached Ding Shu, eager to hear his story. In disbelief, they questioned if he truly encountered a new dungeon and survived its perils. Ding Shu, draping an arm over Xiao's shoulder, noted his luck in escaping alive. Whispering, he revealed they nearly dragged them into the dungeon and demanded to know how they'd settle this debt. Xiao, panicking, insisted it was Ding Shu's fault, threatening to report him for nearly causing his and Yun's deaths. Ding Shu seized Xiao's head, asking what he was thinking, and noting his apparent ignorance of the situation. Pointing to the statue, Ding Shu told the frightened Xiaoji to look at his ancestor, trampled by the hero. He declared himself the traitor Zhen's descendant and Xiaoji as Zhen's heir, questioning if anyone would side with him. Shouting, Ding Shu said Xiao could insult him but not his ancestor, leaving Xiaoji stunned. The crowd gathered, aware that Ding Shu's grandfather was the hero Dingun. Our boy's eyes blazed with fury. The students realized Xiaoji, standing nearby, was Zhen's descendant. To them, a traitor's heir insulting a hero signaled a world gone mad. They recalled Zhen's mass slaughter, stopped only by the hero's intervention. Ding Shu feigned indifference to backtalk, but refused to tolerate insults to his ancestor's face. The teacher approached Xiao, placed a hand on his shoulder, and urged him to apologize, noting his fairness as a teacher and reminding him that the hero had once spared his family. He added that, even without gratitude, Xiao had no right to slander the hero. The teacher then departed. Ding Shu, placing a hand on Xiao's head, warned that beating him publicly would only draw cheers, as no one would aid a despised cur like Xiao Ji. Grabbing Xiao Ji's hair, he asked if he truly believed the hero's descendant could be wrong. As he raised his fist, someone kicked him in the face, knocking him down. Xiao Ji's eyes widened. It was Yun, his gaze burning with rage. He questioned if the hero's family couldn't discipline their brats. Students began recording, shocked that it was Yun, remarking he seemed transformed and incredulous that he dared strike Dingshu. They noted his level 5 status, the weakest in his class, wondering what changed to make him challenge Dingshu. Orphaned and friendless, they thought him unhinged. Dingshu, wiping his cheek, called Yun a mere punching bag, who should be grateful he wasn't targeted. He couldn't fathom Yun's audacity to attack him off guard. With his friends, Dingshu charged at Yun, who moved like lightning, evading and countering before they could react. Dingshu collapsed, spitting blood. The students murmured, stunned by Yun's speed. Dingshu, in disbelief, couldn't grasp how a level 5 support outmatched him. Enraged, he activated the Hell skill, boosting his attack power by 25%, and equipped the Fireforged Hammer, granting 314 attack points. Thinking Yun got lucky, he lunged again. Yun, swift as ever, exploited an opening, landing a jaw punch using the Blade of Trickery skill, which boosted his attack by 80%. Dingshu, reeling, was kicked to the ground. A guard arrived, seeing Yun standing over Dingshu, and called for a healer. The students, including a blonde girl and her friend, were stunned by Yun's speed, recalling his low level. The guard scolded that fighting was banned in the hall due to potential damage and questioned why the teacher couldn't control his students. The teacher approached Yun. He had not only disrespected a revered hero but had also boldly attacked his descendant. According to him, Yun was utterly shameless. The instructor drew his blade, and Yuna's focus locked onto him. Our young hero activated his ring, and when the instructor lunged, his sword broke into fragments, stunning everyone. Yuno suggested they pause the debate about shamelessness for now. He pointed out to the instructor that, despite claiming impartiality, he appeared to have only heard Dingshu's version of events and asked directly if he was trying to gain favor with Dingshu's family. The instructor snapped at him to stop spouting nonsense, his eyes then fixing on the ring Yuno wore. He pondered what sort of artifact it could be, as, despite not using his full power, it had thwarted his strike. As a potent aura radiated from him, Yun clarified it was merely a passing remark, and added that he didn't truly think the instructor was that sort of person. The students stood in disbelief, unable to fathom how Yun had blocked the instructor's attack. The instructor vowed to thoroughly examine the root of this dispute. Inwardly, he questioned where Yun had acquired such an artifact, and whether he had powerful backing. The ring on Yuno's finger was the Chimera Bone Ring, its durability already worn by 37%. Though of epic grade, it was merely gear from a level 21 lord, making its use against the level 35 instructor reckless. Yuno requested expulsion from the hall as punishment, alongside Xiaoji. Xiaoji rose, trailing our hero with a bewildered look. The students remained in awe, questioning whether a mere student could achieve such a feat. The instructor directed his students to cast a healing spell on Dingshu. Meanwhile, our hero An Chao exited the hall. He felt sorrow, unable to accept that no one had survived, and that Benben had been slain long ago by the so-called hero. His gaze settled on Chaoja, thinking that any question now would prompt an unfiltered response. Clearing his throat, he admitted his history knowledge was shaky and asked Chaoja to recount the specific feats of the hero Dingkun. Chaoja, nervous, said he wasn't certain his memory was accurate, but recalled that the hero Dingun had uncovered the great villain Yun's plot in advance. He described how Dingun had set up an ambush near the S-rank trip dungeon to provide aid, resolving the rebellion crisis. Yuni felt a jolt of surprise, memories of his past life flooding back how they had been ambushed. Chao added that Dingkun, from a young age, aimed to conquer the dungeon crisis, training relentlessly. After being elevated by the king, he battled across the land for years, saving places like Winterfell City during the renowned Great Cataclysm. Yuna stared at the ground, a vision of his past self atop a pile of corpses surfacing in his mind. With a heavy expression, Yun inquired about the sword on the hero's statue. Chaoji explained it was the flowing cloud sword, said to be the blade the hero used to slay the traitor Yuna top-tier piece of gear. Fury sparked in Yuna's eyes. They had not only stolen his glory and deeds, but also his sword. He resolved to kill Ding Kun first. Outside the Ding family estate, several high-level warriors patrolled. Suddenly, one's eyes gleamed, drawn to something nearby. He spotted Yun and Xiao slipping into an alley but dismissed it, assuming they were just passing through. Noticing the guard's alertness, Yun wondered if he was a wanderer with a scout skill. Xiaoji urged Yuna to leave, arguing there were too many guards, and that even if they sneaked in, Dingshu's return would spell their doom. Though Yuna yearned to confront and kill the hero Ding Kun, he knew it was impossible. Xiaoji explained that Ding Kun spent his days in a high-level dungeon. Unlike in Yuna's past life, dungeons weren't freely accessible. High-level ones were now guarded by the military, requiring a special pass. Yet Yuna was certain the Ding family kept such a pass in their home. He questioned whether so many guards were necessary for a mere branch of Dingun's lineage. Chaoji revealed that, as descendants of a hero, they also owned a dungeon on their property. Yuna's eyes widened at the revelation of a private dungeon. Zhaojai noted that low-level dungeons were privately traded, but only those with immense power and influence could acquire them. Dingshu, constantly guarded, could farm monsters and level up at will, while ordinary students like them fought over monsters during school dungeon practicals. Yuna realized this era was vastly different, questioning if wealth and power dictated one's level. Xiaoji nodded, explaining that ordinary people graduated between levels 15 and 20, often stuck there without dungeon access. Those with dungeon-related jobs like miners or rangers in national dungeons might reach level 30 by middle age. In contrast, guards at Dingshu's estate leveraged their family's dungeon, reaching around level 30. Higher levels required military recruitment or joining guilds or academies through school assessments for access to advanced dungeon. Yuna knew that to grow stronger, that pass was vital. Chao suggested they abandon the plan, citing the vast level gap and arguing that no matter Yuna's skill, he couldn't match the guards. Yuna acknowledged his current strength was insufficient to kill Ding Kun, let alone the Supreme King Luo Wei, shielded by layers of protection. Still, he knew level 30 scouting skills, like Eagle Eye, Enhanced Hearing, or Krat Spirit Summoning, were limited in scope and couldn't monitor the entire estate constantly. Moreover, this wasn't a life-or-death dungeon, and most guards were lax. He concluded it was more than feasible to infiltrate. Xiao froze in fear. Yuna, on the other hand, vaulted onto the wall with ease, reflecting that, compared to the near-perfect scouting missions in the perilous dungeons of his former life, this was far less intense. Chawaji warned that even if they infiltrated a private dungeon like this, they could face death without repercussions. The young hero seized Chao by the collar and questioned whether he truly wanted to transform his life. Xiaojai confessed he did, but his plan was to wait until he joined a guild. Yun pressed him, asking if he genuinely believed a guild would alter his fate. Xiaojia, the great-grandson of the infamous traitor Zhen, had eyes clouded with sorrow. The hero hoisted him onto the wall, declaring that a person's fate is shaped in the present, not by banking on uncertain possibilities. Yuna wasn't about to bypass the dungeon before him. He left the choice to Chao, letting him decide whether to follow. Xiaoji's brow glistened with sweat as the hero wondered if the descendant would echo his ancestors' decision. Xiaoji rose, unwilling to let Yun face death alone. Yun hushed him, noting the absence of summoning-type scouting skills in the area. By keeping quiet, staying out of sight, and timing their move perfectly, they could slip in unnoticed. Yuna grabbed Xiaoji, and following his strategy, they breached the Ding family compound. Xiaoji's gaze locked onto a dungeon, sprawling beneath the ground. They stepped inside and spotted two monster zone level 6, the other level 8. The hero observed that the levels were slightly higher than their last dungeon, but the monster count was lower, likely due to the Ding family's regular culling. He pointed out the two minor creatures and urged Xiao to take a shot at them. Xiao, trembling with fear, refused, insisting he couldn't possibly defeat them. The hero pushed him to fight. As the monsters lunged, Xiao summoned his shield for protection, still stunned that Yun believed in his ability to prevail. Xiaoji's nerves frayed, regretting his decision to come and longing to return home. Yun encouraged him to strike back, but Xiaoji questioned how he could find an opening. Yuna reassured him, promising to keep watch and ensure his safety. Trusting Yun, Xiao wielded his shield and attacked. Another monster attempted a sneak attack from behind, but Xiao dodged in time. Just as Yun had suspected, Xiao's talent was impressive. His issue was his constant timidity and tendency to panic, limiting him to defensive moves. Yet his instinctive spatial awareness was razor-sharp, making it seem like he was in peril when, in reality, he lost little health. Xiao struck a monster, but his shield broke apart. Yun moved like lightning, dispatching the creatures. Xiaoji, astonished, realized he had leveled up to 7. The hero explained that experience points were allocated based on contribution. If Xiao hadn't disrupted the monsters, his share of the experience would have been minimal since Yun dealt the killing blows. Yuno brandished the crescent bone blade, forged from the concentrated resentment of a leg bone, boosting his attack power by 62 and spiritual attack by 11. Noticing Xiao's nimble movements, Yuna asked how he allocated his attribute points. Xiaoji admitted that, aside from spirit, he distributed them evenly. The hero recalled that shield bearers typically didn't prioritize agility. Xiaoji explained that without agility, he struggled to find a party at school. Nobody wanted a sluggish shield bearer who arrived after the others had already cleared the monsters. Yuna sighed, advising him to think long-term. He explained that advanced class promotions past level 60 demanded specific attribute thresholds, citing the Bastion Fortress class, which required 60 stamina and 90 defense. Random point allocation wouldn't cut it. Chao remarked that most people never surpassed level 40 in their lifetime, and questioned how he could even dream of level 60, an S-rank milestone. The hero placed a hand on his shoulder, smiling, and told him that from now on, he could aim for S-rank or even beyond. That said, Yun also needed to plan his own class progression. He mused that his support class had only been revived due to the hidden skill, Mirror World, and that, barring surprises, he'd likely switch classes. A sudden realization hit him, his mirror world skill could be upgraded. In the secluded dungeon of the Ding family, Yoon battled creatures with remarkable swiftness. His trick blade technique amplified his strikes, but it faded just as he struck a level 17 zombie greed demon. The creature, still standing, displayed the strength of trick blade, yet revealed its shortcomings in prolonged combat. Yoon's mana and stamina were nearly depleted. The beast finally fell, proving his body wasn't suited for extended fights. The battle brought substantial rewards. Yoon advanced 2 levels to level 17, with boosts to health, mana, and attribute points. He also acquired 2 shadow creature souls from elite zombies, granting his SSS rank Mirror World skill 2,000 experience points, confirming its potential to level up. After the fight, Yoon gathered loot, satisfied with the levels gained and Mirror World's progress. Abruptly sensing peril, he climbed higher and noticed Ding family guards patrolling more frequently. Below, Chaoji, level 8, clad in new equipment, anxiously suggested they halt. He pointed out the dwindling monster numbers and heightened guard vigilance, questioning if they'd been discovered. Yuna concurred. Engaging now would be too challenging, demanding constant guard monitoring and precise trick blade use. With his current strength and tighter security, the risk was too great. Yuna examined a new skill book, Brick Spell, which formed mana bricks. When inverted by Mirror World, it transformed into Void Technique, rendering small objects intangible. He realized not all reversed skills were combat-oriented. Some had subtle non-combat applications. Yuna checked his Mirror World skill, which needed 30% more experience to advance. Perched on a cliff, he reflected on the incredible power its reversal offered. Even at its base level, it fueled his resolve, and he envisioned growing stronger as it leveled up. With determined eyes, Yoon devised a new strategy. This dungeon provided unique Mirror World experience from its monsters. He calculated that slaying the boss could elevate the skill to level 2, a prize too valuable to ignore despite the guard threat. They crept through the cave, ducking behind boulders as guards used detection skills more often, heightening their exposure. Yuna cautiously peered forward and spotted their target, a colossal shadowed figure seated on a throne, bound by thick, glowing purple chains atop a staircase. Numerous guards surrounded it. This was the dungeon boss. From their concealed position, Chaoji was stunned to see a dungeon boss restrained like this. Yoon was less shocked, noting their school's boss was similarly guarded, suggesting it was typical for powerful factions. Yuna surveyed the scene, observing relaxed guards on the steps. He focused on the glowing purple chains binding the boss, recognizing them as potent restraints. Quietly assessing the situation, he knew a direct assault on the boss with so many guards would be fatal and unwinnable, attracting all attention. Yuna realized killing the boss was impossible with the guards present, but he saw an opening. A guard strayed alone. He decided to eliminate them one by one. Masking his face, he activated Trick Blade for a 150% attack boost and ambushed the guard. The attack was flawless. The guard was instantly incapacitated and collapsed as Chaoji watched. Yoon loomed over him with a menacing aura, demanding information. Terrified, the guard pleaded for his life, offering any details, claiming the Ding family didn't pay him enough to die for them. Yoon listened, seeing a chance to pursue his primary objective, infiltrating the compound. When Yuna asked about the hero dungeon pass, the guard was taken aback. He hurriedly explained that the old master kept many in his study, and they weren't rare. Misinterpreting, the guard thought Yoon was obsessed with hero grandpas. Frightened by Yoon's silence, he swore he was truthful, noting he'd seen the old master frequently take passes. He cautioned that the passes were temporary samples, and without an insider, they'd be caught. Yuna remained unfazed. He seized the guard's collar, telling him not to fret. With a chilling stare, he ordered the guard to empty his inventory, revealing his intent to rob him and likely assume his identity. Back at the Ding family compound, Yun continued interrogating the guard, gripping his shirt. Yun was unimpressed by a single lackluster skill book. The terrified guard insisted it was all he had, explaining that the Ding family stored valuable dungeon loot in their inner residence, leaving outer guards with scraps. Yuna learned Sunlight Baptism, a passive skill granting temporary defense after healing. Using Mirror World, he reversed it into Moonlight Blessing, a potent offensive skill providing temporary attack boosts post-healing. He noted that this skill, like the dungeon passes, was in the inner residence. The guard gestured toward the opulent Ding inner residence, clarifying that outer guards like him couldn't enter without a direct summon. He described the stringent security. Except for Ding Shu, everyone inside was above level 50 with elite gear, rendering outer guards unnecessary. Yuna pulled the guard closer, asking if the pass was indeed in the residence. The petrified guard confirmed it, adding that the formidable family head, level 42, was also there, a foe Yun couldn't defeat. He outlined the family's strength. The current and second family heads at level 42, the third at level 52, and the old master at level 57. He warned that if the two strongest returned, it would be impossible. After extracting all the information, Yun knocked the guard out. He had Chao Ji don the guard's armor as a disguise and wait for his signal. Since the powerful family head was secure inside, Yun planned to lure him out rather than confront him directly. Back in the dungeon, Yun studied the boss. He understood the Ding family used high-level chains to keep it alive, creating a permanent private farming ground. He recognized that this system's security, reliant on easily guarded chains, was exploitable, significant flaw. The guards believed their method was secure because no one would unlock the chains. Unbeknownst to them, Yun, from his past life, knew how to release them. He stealthily approached a guard and effortlessly undid the lock. The chains dropped, and the furious boss broke free, rampaging wildly. The guards panicked as the massive creature caused havoc. This chaos was precisely what Yun needed to draw the family head out of the inner residence, the ideal tactic to achieve it. The plan succeeded. Alarms sounded as the level 42 family head rushed from the now unguarded inner residence, ordering immediate dungeon reinforcements. As he and his elite guards charged to address the crisis, Yun seized the opportunity to grab the powerful level 60 combat chains that had bound the boss. Holding the pulsating high-level gear, Yun knew his plan had worked. With the family head and elite guards occupied, he and Chao Ji could easily infiltrate the inner residence. As Yun's strategy cleared the path, new arrivals appeared at the Ding family's main entrance. Servants welcomed the returning second master Ding Hao, level 42, and his son Ding Shu, who arrived in a luxurious car. Ding Hao dismissed Ding Shu's recent defeat to Yun as a minor error. But Ding Shu retorted that he wasn't there just to greet his father. Ding Hao then opened the car door for a Miss Yun Sha. Two young women emerged with long blonde hair and her dark-haired companion, likely Yun Sha. The mustached family head, fresh from the dungeon chaos, stood at the top of the stairs, smiling. Suddenly, his smile faded, replaced by confusion, then rage. He harshly kicked a bowing servant out of his way, ordering him not to obstruct him. As the servant lay on the ground, the furious family head strode swiftly toward Ding Hao, Ding Shu, and their two female guests, visibly enraged. From the woods, Chaoji, disguised as a guard, observed the scene at the house. Yun suddenly appeared behind him, startling the boy. Chaoji admitted he was worried, noting that with the Ding family's return, it wasn't an ideal time to sneak into the house. Yun calmly asked why he seemed anxious, and a surprised Chaoji asked how he arrived so quickly. Yuna explained that the creature he unleashed was a dungeon lord, and even a level 31 was difficult to capture alive, meaning it would keep the Ding family's main fighters occupied for a long time. He assured they wouldn't subdue the boss soon, making it the perfect opportunity for them. With that resolved, he asked Chaoji what he had observed. Chaoji looked back at the house somberly. He revealed that the servant the family head had kicked was his youngest uncle, Chaoyi, a level 17 man. Yun listened as Chaoji shared a grim piece of their shared history. He explained that when the old Yun rebelled, his family had already been killed. Chaoji added that, in a way, this spared them from the years of shame and suffering endured by the children of traitors, like his own family. Hearing of the anguish endured by the family of Yun's old friend due to false accusations about their history, Yun's expression revealed deep sorrow and resolute determination. From their vantage point among the trees, Chao recounted his family's tragic tale. He shared how, branded as traitors, the Chao family faced relentless cruelty from the empire. Their homes were razed, their lives shattered. The situation worsened under covert orders from the so-called hero Dingkun, who ensured the surviving Chao members were constantly harassed and harmed. Beaten and desperate with no other means to survive, the remaining Chao family was compelled to serve the very clan that destroyed them, the Ding family. Now they led a meager existence, always watching their master's expressions, groveling for meager scraps. Chaoji confessed with shame that they were sometimes paraded as evidence of the Ding family's dominance and mercy for sparing the offspring of a traitor. He revealed that his father's generation attempted to resist and alter their destiny, speaking out against the injustice. But their efforts ended in tragedy. The strain drove his father to madness, while his uncle Zoli became utterly submissive, behaving like little more than the Ding family's loyal hound. Weighed down by this bleak legacy, Xiao Ju began questioning his own choices, doubting whether following Yun into such a perilous place was wise. His hesitation was interrupted when Yun turned to him, declaring firmly that he needed to enter the inner residence. Alarmed, Chao tried to dissuade him, urgently warning that Ding Shu's father, a fully armed level 42 warrior, was inside. He cautioned Yun that discovery would mean certain death. Unfazed by the risk, Yuno explained his conviction that in an era where the powerful dictate who can wield power and access dungeons, one cannot hope to transform their life without taking bold risks. He glanced at Xiaoji, noting that some things will never happen if one hesitates and overthinks. Finally, Yuna offered him a clear choice. He told Xiaoji he could help him change his destiny, but Xiaoji had to choose to act first. Yun clarified his own intentions. He would resist, but he wouldn't force Xiaoji to join him. Despite Yun's resolve, Xiao remained deeply fearful and uncertain. He argued that the Ding family was an immense force ruling the world, questioning how just the two of them could challenge such a formidable power. Yuno turned away, gazing toward the distant inner residence. As he began moving forward, he told the stunned Xiaoji that his ambition was far greater than merely defeating one family. The true enemy he intended to confront, he declared, was the entire empire itself. Meanwhile, within the serene inner residence, Ding Hao lounged on a sofa, attended by a maid. He pondered how the dungeon lord had escaped its sturdy chains. Observing him, the blonde girl accompanying Dingshu courteously asked her uncle if it was an inconvenient time, offering to return another day due to the crisis. Ding Hao swiftly dismissed her concerns, assuring her that his elder brother, the family head, could manage it. He promised that a mere dungeon issue was far less significant than her visit. Smiling, he added that when his formidable father, the old master, and his third brother learned of her arrival, they had already begun returning to the house to greet her. He also mentioned that they had reached out to Hero Grandpa, who was thrilled to meet her, emphasizing that resolving the situation would be effortless. From a concealed perch on a balcony, Yoon overheard everything. His focus sharpened at the mention of Hero Grandpa, recognizing they referred to the so-called Hero Ding-kun. His mind raced, linking this new information with what he'd gleaned from a captured guard. Entering the hero's dungeon required both a pass and a companion. Observing the guests, he noted how respectfully Yoon Shaw was treated, deducing her status must be significant. Then a crucial detail struck him. Her name, Yun Sha, shared his own surname. He wondered if this was mere coincidence. For now, he set the thought aside, sharpening his focus on his immediate objectives, securing the dungeon pass. As he watched, Yun Sha stood silently, her expression inscrutable, a figure of enigma and importance. With the Ding family's main warriors occupied, Yoon seized the opportunity to infiltrate the inner residence. He glided silently through opulent corridors, slipping past two maids conversing and using shadows to conceal himself. He navigated the lavishly adorned halls, delving deeper into the mansion toward his goal. Meanwhile, outside the dungeon, the issue was resolved. The family head, Ding Yi, a level 42 warrior, and his forces stood before the now subdued dungeon lord. Ding Yi surveyed the scene, concluding the creature had been deliberately set free. He was troubled, however, as they couldn't identify the culprit. He reasoned that taking such a bold risk wouldn't be for a single piece of valuable equipment, like the chains. Determined to safeguard his home, he ordered his guards to encircle the inner residence first. His primary concern was his esteemed guest. He couldn't allow anything to alarm the young lady. Inside the study, Yoon began his search. He approached the desk mentioned by the guard but was initially frustrated to find the drawers empty. Recalling his new non-combat skill, he employed phasing, the inverse of the brick spell. This allowed his hand to pass through the solid wood, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside, he discovered a drawer filled with books and journals. He retrieved the items, his gaze first falling on what appeared to be a diary. Setting it aside, he uncovered the true treasure, a collection of premium high-quality skill books. One was for a potent support skill, slowing aura, which could decelerate all enemies across a wide area. He had found the family's hidden cache. The entrance to the Ding family's inner residence was now teeming with guards. From his hiding spot in the nearby woods, Chaoji watched in horror, wondering why so many guards had appeared, and fearing they'd been discovered. His panic intensified as more guards arrived, and he realized the situation was too dangerous. He worried that if Yoon didn't escape immediately, he'd be captured. The fear of being caught revived painful memories of his father's descent into madness and his family's endless suffering. His initial instinct was to flee, to slip away, and save himself. As another guard neared his hiding place, he was paralyzed by indecision. But at that critical moment, Yoon's words echoed in his mind. He could be helped to change, but he had to choose to act first. Resolving himself, Chaoji let out a loud cry, deliberately drawing the guard's attention. He then burst from his hiding spot and began running, luring them away from the mansion. He had made his decision. He would serve as a diversion to ensure Yoon wasn't caught. From within the mansion, Yun witnessed Xiaoji's courageous act. With the guards distracted, he shattered a window and leaped out. He felt a surge of pride, recognizing that his friend had finally overcome his fear and chosen to fight his fate. To aid Xiaoji's escape, Yuna created an even greater diversion. He landed among the guards, taunting them by proclaiming he had stolen the chains and skill books, challenging them to catch him. Infuriated, the guards abandoned their posts and pursued him. As he fled, Yuna activated the slowing aura skill he'd just acquired. However, due to his mirror world ability, the skill reversed, becoming an accelerating aura that boosted the speed of himself and nearby allies. The family head, Ding Yi, observed their flight but noticed something odd. Instead of fleeing the house, they were heading back toward the dungeon. Realizing the threat, he ordered 2 squads to cease pursuit and return to protect the dungeon lord. Xiaoji, now running alongside Yuni, was utterly bewildered. He asked why Yuni was leading them toward danger instead of away from it. Yuni revealed his grand strategy. He knew that with so many guards drawn out to chase them, the remaining forces must have already defeated the wild dungeon lord. Subduing such a powerful boss would have required an intense battle, leaving the lord's health at its lowest. Yun checked the status of his ultimate skill Mirror World, noting how close it was to advancing. With his eyes glowing purple, he knew his next step. Killing the weakened dungeon lord now would provide the final boost needed to enhance his most powerful ability. A tense silence settled in the Ding family's opulent sitting room. The blonde girl, sipping tea, politely told her host, Ding Hao, that he could address the commotion outside. Smiling confidently, Dinga, the second patriarch, brushed it off as a minor thief, assuring his guest that his brother Ding Yi would easily handle it. But the situation was far from simple. In the dungeon, Grand Patriarch Ding Yi struggled to regain control. He shouted at a guard for being sluggish and ordered him to pursue the rampaging overlord directly. Spotting Yun dart past, Ding Yi commanded his swiftest units rogues and Arcursto abandon the boss and chase the intruder at all costs. Their efforts were futile. Yun moved with astonishing speed, outpacing them. He knew his advantage. He had allocated half his attribute points to agility. Combined with his reversed acceleration skills, he was so swift that only specialized level 30 rogues or archers had any hope of keeping up. He effortlessly entered the central chamber, where the skeletal overlord stood in circle. The creature was gravely injured and weakened. As the guards struggled to maintain a protective barrier spell, Yun realized his strategy had unfolded flawlessly. The boss was at its most vulnerable. Channeling a burst of violet energy, he readied himself to land a single, fatal strike to defeat the diminished dungeon lord. As Yun approached, the guards surrounding the overlord noticed him. They raised an alarm, rushing to intercept him. Before they could mount a proper defense, Yun unleashed a torrent of chaotic thorns. Vines, pulsing with purple energy, surged from the earth, whipping toward the guards. They were stunned, unfamiliar with this ability. The thorns attempted to inflict a debilitating status effect. While humans typically resist such conditions, Yun's skill was exceptionally powerful, and several guards succumbed. The result was terrifying. Affected guards fell into confusion, one mage accidentally blasting a comrade with a potent spell, plunging their ranks into disarray. The remaining guards stood frozen, astonished by the skill's extraordinary success rate. With the enemies turning on each other, Yun seized the moment. He darted swiftly through the chaotic guards, his path unobstructed to his target, the weakened overlord, ripe for defeat. The guards' defenses collapsed as Yun slipped past. They shouted in panic, questioning why their shields and crowd control spells failed. some unintentionally striking allies. Yoon observed their lack of coordination, noting they were an untrained group with little real combat synergy. He reflected that their long period of peace had dulled their skills, leading to their failure. A guard captain attempted to rally his troops, shouting that if they could corner the intruder, he'd be finished. At that moment, First Patriarch Ding Yi arrived, ordering his men to restrain Yoon. The level 42 warrior, clad in fiery armor, vowed to handle the intruder himself. Brandishing his blazing weapon, he lunged, preparing a crushing assault on Yoon. Yoon observed the Patriarch's approach, bracing himself. With a scoff, he chose to meet the attack directly. He drew the level 60 combat chains he had previously stolen. Though too low level to fully wield them, he knew their remarkable durability held strong. As Ding Yi's fiery strike descended, Yoon used the chains as an improvised shield, successfully deflecting the full force of the blazing attack. Yoon cleverly turned Ding Yi's powerful strike to his advantage. Rather than merely blocking the fiery blast, he harnessed its momentum to propel himself backward like a projectile, breaking through the magical barrier the guards were struggling to maintain around their boss. He landed precisely in front of the crippled dungeon lord. With a mocking taunt, he cheekily thanked the furious Patriarch for the boost. Before the guards could react, Yoon announced he would claim the Overlord's experience. He delivered a devastating final strike, killing the weakened beast. The reward was immediate and immense. Yoon gained 3 levels instantly, reaching level 20 and earning 9 new attribute points. Most crucially, the Dungeon Lord's massive experience pool fully upgraded his hidden skill, Mirror World. A system alert confirmed the skill had advanced, reaching the coveted level 2. Enraged that his kill was stolen, First Patriarch Ding Yi roared in fury and charged at Yoon with his fiery axe. Following his lead, the remaining guards surged forward, determined to seize the bold intruder, who stood calmly before the massive corpse of the Dungeon Lord. But Yuncho remained unfazed. He focused on his spoils, the enhanced power his ultimate skill had gained at level 2. As Ding Yi's powerful strike was about to land, it passed harmlessly through a shimmering illusion of Yoon, who then vanished. The guards halted, baffled by his sudden disappearance. Yoon found himself in an entirely different realm. The world had shifted into a silent, crystalline blue-green version of the dungeon. He activated a new feature of his hidden skill, Mirror World. In this strange dimension, he saw translucent, ghostly versions of Ding Yi and the other guards, unaware of his presence. A timer indicated his mirror walk would last nearly 30 minutes. He realized with excitement that he could now enter the very world within the mirror. In this peculiar blue-green realm, Yoon began to explore his new power. He noticed everything was a perfect mirror image of the real world, reversed left to right. Initially, he thought the ghostly forms of the guards were mere illusions, as his hand passed through one. But when he touched the crystal-like ground, he found it solid. Realizing this place was more than an illusion, his exploration led to a remarkable discovery. He picked up a solid crystal fragment from the ground, and a message informed him he had obtained a mirror shard, which could be brought out of this world into the real one. This was a significant breakthrough for Yoon. He understood that with his mirror world skill now at level 2, he could bring tangible objects from this alternate realm into his own. Curious about what else had changed with the skills upgrade, he checked his system interface. He saw an entirely new list of skills, displaying powerful reversed abilities like invisibility and force field cage, but most were marked as unactivated, which puzzled him. A message clarified that these skills were tied to base skills he had not yet learned. He then grasped the true extent of his new ability. The list showed the reversed forms of all skills he could potentially learn. He now knew that to use any of these potent abilities, he first needed to acquire and master their standard versions in reality. The skill reversal he had used at level 1 was merely a basic aspect of his ability's true potential. As he studied the exciting array of future powers, he realized this changed everything. He could now strategically select skill pairs and plan his entire class progression, knowing precisely what powerful reversed forms he would unlock. As Yoon contemplated the full potential of his new skills, he suddenly sensed something behind him. Turning, he saw a faint blue-green humanoid shape drifting aimlessly in the crystalline air. He wondered if it was a soul, similar to how he had been trapped before his revival. The idea intrigued him, and he pondered whether other souls inhabited this strange world. Without warning, the tranquil soul flared with green energy, transforming into a shrieking, bone-like undead creature that lunged at him. Caught off guard, Yoon drew his glowing blade and prepared to fight. He countered the creature's attack and, with a single swing, easily shattered the undead being, noting it wasn't particularly strong. Just as he defeated the creature, a new message appeared, catching his attention. The system offered him an undead contract, explaining that he could form a pact with the soul he had just defeated, allowing it to leave the mirror world and fight for him in the real world. The contract specified that the soul's maximum level would always match his own, and he could form up to 20 such contracts. This unexpected development prompted Yoon to consider the implications of this new power. He realized that after defeating an undead creature in the mirror world, he could bind its soul and summon it as a formidable ally in reality. Holding the mirror shard he had made tangible, he understood his ability extended beyond mere objects like stones. The level 2 upgrade to Mirror World was a true game-changer, enabling him to bring not only items, but also an army of undead from the Mirror World into the real one. Gazing at the vast crystalline landscape filled with possibilities, he found the prospect thrilling. Back in the real world, chaos reigned. With its lord defeated, the private dungeon had collapsed, leaving a bewildered and disorganized army of guards. They were unable to comprehend where the intruder had gone. One captain frantically questioned how he had simply vanished, wondering if it was an advanced rogue stealth skill. A rogue expert quickly dismissed the idea, explaining that their stealth had clear limitations and couldn't enable such a perfect disappearance. The lack of answers infuriated another captain, who grabbed the rogue and demanded to know how the intruder could have escaped with so many of them present. First Patriarch Ding-yi, even more enraged, having lost his valuable private dungeon, vented his anger on one of his men, seizing the man's face and shouting that if they couldn't find the culprit, they would have to compensate him for the loss. Meanwhile, Yoon's time in the mirror world was nearing its end. As his mirror walk timer ticked down, he wondered where he would reappear. Would he return to his original spot, or were there other rules for exiting the mirror world? He got his answer moments later when he materialized back in the real world, in the exact same location where he had vanished. The furious Ding-yi spotted him immediately and, without hesitation, roared for his men to seize him. Facing the renewed assault from the Ding family's fighters, Yoon remained completely composed. He raised a hand, a swirling green light glowing within it, and told them not to be so hasty. He remarked that after being overwhelmed for so long, it was time for him to return the favor. With his newly acquired power from the Mirror Realm, he unleashed a surge of eerie skeletal fighters that erupted forth, creating a terrifying undead legion charging at the startled guards. The guards recoiled in sheer panic, their strikes faltering as they pondered the nature of these spectral figures, questioning if they were truly ghosts. The first Patriarch, Ding-yi, attempted to quell the rising dread. He shouted at his men to stay composed, declaring the creatures were merely undead beasts he'd encountered countless times. One guard engaged a skeletal warrior, bracing for a grueling battle. To his surprise, a health bar materialized above the creature. It was an undead skeleton warrior, level 20, matching Yun's own level. Yet the fear lingered. Dingy's face contorted with fury at his men's persistent hesitation. To spur them into action, he vowed a hefty reward for anyone who attacked and captured the intruder. The promise of riches reignited their courage. But as the guards shifted their focus from the undead horde back to Yun, they realized he had vanished. Bewildered, they scanned their surroundings, wondering where he could have slipped away to. Using his summoned undead as a diversion, Yun observed the skirmish from a safe vantage point. He assessed that his current army lacked the strength to be truly formidable. He knew that forging pacts with more powerful souls would have rendered the disorganized guards powerless against him. Yet his options were constrained by what he could access. He had already bargained with the 20 mightiest souls in the limited region of the Mirror Realm he'd explored. Moreover, he discovered that his exploration wasn't boundless. She'd hit an invisible barrier confining him to a 200-meter radius from his entry point. This realization made it clear that to summon stronger undead, he'd need to access the Mirror Realm from different locations in the future. His strategizing was interrupted when he noticed his friend Xiaoji, who had been serving as a decoy, was discovered hiding in the forest. One guard mocked the disguised boy, gloating about the reward he'd earned for capturing him. Without a moment's hesitation, Yun sprang from the shadows, swiftly and accurately dispatching the guards threatening his friend. With their escape route clear, he seized the stunned Xiaoji and declared they were leaving. Surveying the chaos he'd orchestrated, with his undead army occupying the remaining guards, Yun decided their mission was complete. It was time to retreat, evade the danger, and thoroughly examine the spoils of his daring raid. As Yun and Xiaoji fled, the remaining Ding family guards battled the undead legion. They ferociously attacked the skeletal warriors, shattering their bones. A guard captain remarked that the creatures weren't particularly powerful, but their relief was fleeting. To their horror, a fallen skeleton would instantly reassemble, unscathed. They fought on, only for the skeletons to revive endlessly. Just as the guards' morale began to crumble, Ding Gei, the formidable level 52 third head of the Ding family, appeared, calmly puffing on a pipe. He recognized the skeletons as summoned entities, their revival draining their summoners' mana. With a self-assured grin, he deduced they simply needed to defeat them until their master's energy was depleted. Some time after the chaotic assault, the old master, the mighty head of the family with a flowing white beard, returned. He immediately inquired whether their esteemed guest, Miss Yunsha, had departed. Inside, his son Ding Hao bowed deferentially, apologizing for failing to detain her. He explained that the intruder was astonishingly brazen, causing a commotion by shouting and even smashing a window, which frightened their guest away. The old master, the fearsome level 57 Ding Dan, son of hero Ding Kun, was livid. He berated his son for the utter security lapse, enraged that an intruder had infiltrated and escaped unidentified. Ding Hao lowered his head in shame, accepting full responsibility. Yet he offered a sliver of good news. Despite the turmoil, Miss Yunsha had agreed to venture to the hero's dungeon, meaning his grandfather Hero Ding Kun's affairs were not entirely ruined. This did little to soothe the irate patriarch. Ding Dan swore they'd hunt down and mercilessly eliminate the culprits. He then brusquely ordered his son to promptly investigate what else had been stolen. Safely distant from the chaos, Yun reviewed his haul. He examined the temporary dungeon access permit he'd pilfered, bearing Xiaoji's name. Securing the pass was his primary objective, but he still needed an escort for the hero's dungeon. He chose not to rush this dilemma. He evaluated his other gains from the Ding family raid, which had proven highly lucrative, elevating him to level 20. His potent Chimera bone ring was nearly destroyed after deflecting an attack, but he'd acquired over 10 valuable skill books. One book contained chant skills, all support-oriented. He mastered the battle song chant, which enhanced critical hit rate and damage, but reduced defense. He immediately considered its inverse, the shield song chant, which would prioritize defense over offense. He eagerly realized that by mastering and reversing these support skills, he could significantly amplify his stats. With these enhancements, and a new passive skill boosting his strength, he was confident he could overpower any opponent of the same level through sheer stats. Beyond the skill books, the Dungeon Lord dropped a rare level 30 item, Corrupted Knight's Armor, which would prove valuable later. But above all the levels, skills, and gear, he had finally upgraded his hidden skill, Mirror World, to level 2. Reflecting on his new abilities, Yoon acknowledged that his necromantic summons vastly enhanced his combat prowess. Yet he knew it wasn't sufficient. Recalling the statue of hero Ding Kun, he estimated his foe was at least an S-rank berserker. To stand any chance of defeating him, Yoon calculated he'd need to reach level 50 or higher and, more crucially, secure a contract with an S-rank necromantic spirit. Later, safe from the Ding compound, a still-rattled Xiaoji anxiously asked Yoon if they'd be pursued. Yoon calmly reassured him that they'd evaded their trackers and were safe, as their faces hadn't been seen. Still, Xiaoji remained uneasy, and Yoon noted how traumatic the ordeal must have been for him. Recognizing his current undead army's weakness, Yoon decided his next move. He asked Xiaoji if there were any nearby dungeons where a powerful figure had perished. When Xiaoji seemed puzzled, Yoon clarified that he needed a higher-level dungeon to level up faster, adding that the powerful figure was for a purpose he'd reveal later. After a moment's thought, Xiaoji confirmed such a place existed. But he hesitated, concerned. He disclosed that it was the school's private dungeon, and sneaking in was impossible. This revelation gave Yoon pause, as he considered the challenges of a controlled, heavily guarded dungeon. Yet he remained undeterred. He resolved that if conventional entry was unfeasible, he'd employ unconventional tactics to achieve his goal. As part of his unorthodox plan to access the school's private dungeon, Yoon met with his class teacher. He presented the teacher with a rare purple-quality skill book for his Wanderer class, stolen from the Ding family. The bribe succeeded. The teacher, now convinced Yoon had powerful backing, became more cooperative. He admitted that dungeon access was typically restricted and difficult to alter. However, he revealed a loophole. The dungeon was open to graduating students. Though Yoon wasn't normally eligible, a teacher could nominate an exceptional student. Persuaded of Yoon's remarkable potential, he vowed to secure him a spot. The plan worked. Yoon joined the students entering the school's valiant dungeon. Other students were resolute or sycophantic. One grimly remarked it might be his final opportunity to level up, while another expressed gratitude to the hero. As Yoon passed through the glowing portal, he felt an odd unease, sensing something amiss within the dungeon. The teacher enthusiastically explained that it was where the hero once battled, and traces of his power might linger inside. Nearby, Xiaoji listened somberly. He realized with horror that the valiant dungeon was where, according to the Empire's fabricated history, Hero Ding Kun had valiantly slain his great-grandfather, the traitor Xiaoyin. Knowing the grim truth, Xiaoji wavered, grappling with whether to share the dungeon's true history with Yoon. As the students assembled at the dungeon entrance, the teacher issued a final caution. It was a high-level dungeon, and they must stay within their limits. He then singled out a red-haired student in armor, Little Z, instructing him to watch over Yun and Xiaoji. Little Z was visibly irritated, grumbling that he couldn't concentrate on advancing his levels if he was stuck babysitting. Another student nudged him forward, urging him to quit whining since the dungeon was now accessible, muttering about why younger students were even permitted. Little Z reluctantly joined the others in entering the dungeon. With a patronizing tone, he commanded Yun and Xiaoji to stay behind and avoid causing problems, warning he'd leave them behind if they became a liability. As the group ventured into the expansive, violet-lit interior, Yun quietly observed his surroundings. He noted the dungeon was rated at level 2040. Yet his instincts, honed from his previous life, screamed that something was off. A heavy sense of dread enveloped him, signaling a danger far beyond what a dungeon of this level should hold. As the students delved deeper into the radiant purple dungeon, Yun spotted Yun Yin and her blonde companion, Yun Sha, already inside. He pondered how they, being younger students, were allowed entry. Little Z, tasked with supervising Yun, also noticed the girls and pointed them out to another student clad in armor. This student instantly fantasized about escorting the striking pair. His daydream was abruptly shattered by a taller, stern student wearing a helmet, who smacked him and told him to snap out of it. This student disclosed that Yun Yin and Yun Sha were far stronger, both exceeding level 30. He mocked that they should be the ones seeking the girls' aid, and the fantasizing student wasn't worthy of them. Flustered, the student mumbled that he was only joking. As the older students conversed, the daydreamer kept his eyes on Yun Sha and Yun Yin. To his and his companion's astonishment, the two powerful younger students ignored them and headed straight for Yun and Xiaoji. Yun watched their approach, puzzled. He recalled Yun Sha as the prestigious guest from the Ding family's residence. Her direct approach sparked suspicion in him. He wondered if she knew the former occupant of his body, or if she was confronting him over Ding Shu, whom he'd publicly humiliated. Yun Sha's demeanor was bold and amicable. With a confident smile, she mentioned seeing Yun at the memorial hall, and praised his combat prowess, noting his voice was distinctive. Yun was uncertain of her intentions, suspecting she was merely engaging in casual conversation. But then Yun Sha's eyes gleamed gold as she leaned in, revealing she recognized his voice from the sound of breaking glass during his escape from the Ding family's home. This revelation shocked Yun. He realized, with alarm, that this formidable girl had pinpointed him as the intruder based on just a few words. Having made her point, Yun Sha's attire transformed into white, mage-like battle gear. Yun Yin followed suit, donning a dark green energy suit. Yun Sha then informed a still-stunned Yun that they'd scout the dungeon first, before striding off with her friend. As they departed, Yun carefully mulled over the encounter. He understood she had identified him as the intruder, but opted not to expose him openly, instead conveying her message discreetly. This led him to question if it was a warning. He contemplated the perilous possibility that Ding Shu might also recognize his voice from their prior clash. Yet Yun resolved not to dwell on it for now. He was confident that as long as the Ding family didn't act swiftly, his rapid leveling pace would soon render him powerful enough to face any threat they posed. Noticing her friendly demeanor, he decided to reciprocate with a caution. He called out, advising them to stay vigilant, as his gut told him the dungeon harbored an unusual danger. Yun Sha paused, seeming to concur, and remarked to her friend that the place felt strange. She noted that, given her high level, the dungeon shouldn't feel so unnerving. With a final, knowing smile at Yun, she expressed gratitude for his warning before she and Yin proceeded. The brief, cordial exchange between Yoon and the high-level girls didn't escape notice. The other older students observed in disbelief, whispering about why the typically aloof Yunsha was so chummy with him. Fueled by envy, they encircled Yoon, probing about his connection with her and insisting on an introduction. Uninterested, Yoon brushed off their inquiries, declaring that he and Xiaoji were breaking off from the group to explore independently. The older students were floored by his boldness, cautioning that as younger students, the level 20 monsters would easily overpower them. To their shock, their overseer, Little Z, permitted the two to leave. He reasoned that for Yoon to be on friendly terms with someone as formidable as Yoon Yin, his own level must be substantial. When others objected, citing their teacher's instructions, Little Z's true intentions surfaced in his thoughts. He brusquely reminded his peers of their primary goal, securing valuable crystals. He was unwilling to split the spoils, so allowing them to wander off suited him perfectly. He sealed his decision by coldly instructing the group to disregard them, noting they had distress signal flares if necessary. As Yoon and Xiaoji walked away, Little Z glared at them with resentment and jealousy. He couldn't fathom why an unremarkable kid had caught Yunsha's attention. His envy morphed into sinister malice. He concluded that if Yoon was so brazen, he deserved whatever fate awaited him. Some time after Yoon and the others entered the dungeon, an enraged Ding Shu arrived at the entrance. A male staff member and a woman questioned his intentions. Seething with fury, Ding Shu seized the man's shirt, demanding to know if a team had just entered. The staff member pressed him on what he intended to do. This confrontation followed a frustrating meeting Ding Shu had with his family elders. When he attempted to convince them that Yoon and Xiaoji were the intruders who raided their home, his father, Ding Hao, brushed him off. He sternly told him not to pin his public disgrace on them, as he had no time for trivial matters. Ding Shu adamantly insisted he recognized their voices from the raid. However, Ding Gai was skeptical, pointing out that the intruders were too adept to be mere students, having effortlessly evaded numerous guards. Ding Gai stated that unless Ding Shu could prove their strength surpassed that of the guards, he couldn't back his claim. The family head, Ding Dong, icily dismissed him, ordering him to leave them to their pressing affairs. Rebuffed by his family, Ding Shu was left with no option but to take matters into his own hands. Back at the dungeon entrance, he confronted the staff member again, proclaiming with frenzied resolve that since Yoon and Xiaoji were inside, he had to pursue them. Deep within the dungeon, Yuno battled a formidable level 20 greed demon crystal giant. The beast, formed of jagged blue crystals, lashed out with relentless force. As Yuno evaded its blows, a more dangerous foe emerged. A level 30 greed demon crystal eye materialized, unleashing a searing beam of violet energy toward him. Recognizing the immense threat, Yuno braced for impact. From a distance, a panicked Xiaoji called out Yuno's name and cast a support ability. Golden shields adorned with angelic wings enveloped Yuno, deflecting the deadly attack. This ability, known as Surrounding Shield, granted Yuno a protective barrier with 500 durability and 700 defense for 3 minutes. Xiaoji didn't stop there. He followed with a rallying cry, cloaking Yuno in an aura that enhanced his strength. This granted Yuno the inspired status, boosting his attack power and speed by 5%. It was clear Xiaoji was rapidly mastering his role as a support player. Bolstered by Xiaoji's aid, Yuno unleashed a flurry of devastating strikes on the towering crystal beast. With his Trick Blade ability active, providing a 70% attack boost, he shattered the formidable level 30 eye of the mountain with a decisive blow. The triumph yielded immediate rewards. Yuno advanced to level 21, earning 3 attribute points. Chaoji, overjoyed, shouted in excitement as he reached level 11, also gaining 3 attribute points. Yuno explained to his friend that the surrounding shield and rallying cry abilities stemmed from skill books they'd taken from the Ding family. He noted how valuable these skills were, with Chaoji mastering them effectively. Surveying the defeated monsters' remains, Yuno reflected on their improved teamwork. Though the dungeon's creatures were slightly high level, Chaoji's new support skills made the battles far more manageable. As they ventured deeper into the dungeon's shimmering crystal caverns, Yuno recalled his teacher's words. The teacher had spoken of a rare creature in this dungeon, the Obsidian Beast, which offered a chance to obtain a rare support skill book for gravitational pole upon defeat. This was significant for Yuno, as he'd seen the skill's inverse force field zone in his Mirror World skill list and knew it was vital for his future strategies. Yet defeating the beast wasn't his sole objective. Gazing across the eerie, vast landscape, Yuno recalled tales of powerful adventurers who perished here, their souls lingering where they fell. He hoped to locate and bind these potent undead spirits to bolster his army. Suddenly, a sense of danger gripped him, his eyes widening in alert. Below, in the canyon, a massive creature of glowing dark purple stone emerged. It wasn't a lone pack of elite-level obsidian beasts marched in unison through the Crystal Pillar Canyon. From a high vantage point, Yuno and Chaoji observed the unusual spectacle. Yuno noted the beasts moved in a coordinated group, traveling over a kilometer, far beyond their typical range. Their organized behavior led him to a grave realization, muttering, "Wonder type, huh?" He recognized the signs of a far greater, more intelligent threat. The beast's movements jogged Yuno's memory, and he explained what a Wanderer-type monster was. These rare entities roamed freely across a dungeon map without a fixed spawn point. Far stronger than typical monsters of their level, they could overwhelm unprepared adventurers. In earlier times, before humanity tamed dungeons, encountering a Wanderer type often meant a brutal fight for survival. These creatures were especially perilous because they could leave the dungeon, threatening human settlements and causing widespread destruction. Yet Yuno also knew the immense risk came with great rewards. Wanderer-type monsters dropped superior experience and items compared to ordinary creatures, making them a high-stakes target for daring adventurers. Aware of the formidable threat posed by the Obsidian Beast Pack, Yuno knew recklessness would be fatal. The level 30 Obsidian Crystal Beasts possessed a constant healing ability, making them nearly impossible to defeat through attrition. Before he could devise a strategy, the beasts retaliated, firing a synchronized barrage of energy beams called mana rays. Yuno relied on his agility to dodge the dense onslaught, aided by Chaoji's winged shields. But the sheer volume and frequency of the attacks overwhelmed him. A beam struck, drawing blood and sending a jolt of pain through his back. A glance at his health bar revealed the dire situation his health had plummeted. He realized his current body's low HP and defense were insufficient. Without Chaoji's surrounding shield, that single hit could have been catastrophic. Acknowledging his vulnerability, Yuno shifted tactics. He summoned his undead army spectral skeletons wreathed in green flame to hold off the obsidian beasts. But the power gap was too wide. The elite monsters tore through his summons, their health bars dwindling rapidly. Frustrated, Yuno saw his undead forces couldn't withstand such formidable foes. He executed a tactical retreat, noting the beast's sluggish speed gave him a slight advantage. His own low health and defense were weaknesses he couldn't quickly overcome. He concluded that Xiaoji's defensive skills were their best chance. To make that viable, Xiaoji needed to grow stronger. Yuno turned to Xiaoji and outlined a new strategy. They'd target weaker monsters to level up. They moved to an area with less formidable enemies, where Yuno pointed out a group he'd spotted earlier, ideal for helping Xiaoji gain levels. In team battles, the shield bearer was the cornerstone of defense, absorbing damage so others could attack safely from afar. Following Yuno's earlier guidance to aim for an S-rank build, Xiaoji had allocated all his stat points to defend. This specialized build, combined with armor pilfered from the Ding family guards, was now proving its worth. Zhao had developed the core defenses of a true shield bearer, now able to fend off attacks from level 20 monsters with ease, sustaining only minor damage. Under Yun's expert guidance, Xiao trained diligently to perfect his role as a shield bearer. From afar, Yun called out instructions, teaching his friend the fundamentals of a solid defensive posture, explaining how to distribute his weight, stabilize his frame, and position his shield to deflect incoming strikes. Applying these lessons, Xiao successfully blocked a forceful strike from a crystalline beast. He was thrilled to see tangible proof of his improved abilities. A notification indicated that his shield's durability was depleting far more slowly than before, though his inexperience was still evident. As Yun cautioned him to anticipate follow-up strikes, the monster attacked again, catching Xiaoji off guard and sending him crashing to the ground. Before the creature could deliver a finishing blow, Yun leapt in, intercepting the attack and saving his companion. He seized the moment to impart another lesson, stressing the importance of predicting an enemy's next move. He advised Xiao to avoid broad, sweeping shield motions that left him vulnerable, instead emphasizing compact, efficient blocks that would allow counterattacks. Giving his friend an encouraging pat on the shoulder, Yun offered one final tip: stay vigilant, but keep the body relaxed, tensing only at the moment of impact to conserve energy and react swiftly. The training pressed on relentlessly. With a final supportive tap on Xiao's armor, Yun urged him to keep up the effort. He stood behind his friend, consistently offering guidance and teaching another vital lesson for a shield bearer: always monitor the teammates behind them. At this, a look of quiet resolve crossed Xiaoji's face. They put their training into action, battling side by side against the dungeon's creatures. Yun reminded his friend of a key combat principle: when stats are evenly matched, superior skill determines the victor. Their teamwork bore fruit. After defeating another monster, Yun leveled up again, reaching level 22. He was pleased with their progress. With Xiao now facing enemies confidently, they could fight more effectively, allowing Yun to gain experience at a faster pace as well. The most significant progress, however, was Xiaoji's, who excitedly declared that he had finally hit the milestone of level 15. This level was a pivotal moment. Xiaoji could now unlock a powerful new skill from one of the books they had pilfered. He held up a glowing rare skill book for shield armor, a technique that would add an outer layer of protection to his shield. This would grant it immense durability and defense that scaled with his own stats, making him an even more formidable tank. Now at the required level, Xiaoji mastered the shield armor skill, the final skill book he could use from the Ding family's collection. The new ability manifested as a layer of shimmering green armor over his summoned shield, vastly enhancing its defensive strength. Yun also remarked that the skill's defensive boost would be invaluable when they faced the obsidian beasts again. Meanwhile, in another section of the Crystal Pillar Canyon, 3 instructors from the school's teaching team were observing the same group of elite obsidian beasts that Yun and Xiaoji had encountered earlier. The teachers were puzzled by the large gathering of elite-level wanderer types in one location. They concluded that the monsters posed too great a threat to the students and needed to be eliminated. However, they recognized the difficulty of the task. While they were confident in handling standard level 30 monsters, the elite wanderer types were an entirely different challenge, far more powerful and unpredictable. Their discussion was interrupted when a student's distress signal flared in the sky. Forced to shift priorities, the teachers decided to abandon their hunt and prioritize rescuing the student. As they prepared to depart, they expressed deep concern about the group of wanderers, knowing the monsters were a significant danger and that any student stumbling upon them unaware would be in grave peril. As the teaching team readied to leave for the rescue, one of them, Pang Jiang, agreed the situation was perilous and offered to stay behind as a precaution. The team leader, Lei, was about to consent when Yun and Xiaoji suddenly appeared. Yun voiced his own concerns, proposing that he and Xiao could monitor the wanderer group instead. He argued that if the rescue party encountered another group of formidable monsters, 2 teachers alone might not suffice. Approaching the surprised instructors, Yun calmly outlined his plan. He noted that the wanderer types were not particularly swift and, crucially, had not yet detected their presence. He assured them that as long as he and Xiao maintained a safe distance and merely observed, they would be fine, urging the teachers to proceed without concern. After a moment's hesitation, the instructors agreed to the plan. Before departing, however, Lei issued a stern warning, emphasizing the extreme danger of the monsters and insisting that Yun and Xiao must not act independently or attempt to engage them. He reiterated that they must remain concealed, as discovery by the powerful creatures would leave them no chance of escape. As the teachers rushed off, one shouted a final desperate warning for Yun to stay well hidden, stressing that he would have no means of escape if the monsters spotted him. But Yun had no intention of hiding. As soon as the teachers were out of sight, he launched his own assault on the obsidian beasts. With confidence, he declared that it was the monsters who would not escape him. He set their new strategy in motion, summoning his undead army to form a front line, absorbing the initial wave of attacks from the formidable beasts. This time, the skeletons were not alone. Xiao Ji, now a robust tank, employed both his surround shield and new shield armor skills, creating an exceptionally strong defensive barrier to protect the skeletons. The powerful energy beams, previously a major threat, now struck the fortified shields without causing harm, barely scratching the undead warriors they shielded. With the monster's focus on his unyielding front line, Yun wove through the chaos and launched his own ferocious attack, delivering a series of powerful strikes that shattered the crystalline bodies of the elite monsters with his bare fists. He targeted a single radiant crystal monster, watching its health bar dwindle with each blow. With a final, precise strike, he shattered the creature's core, and the formidable level 30 beast collapsed. After triumphing over a formidable wanderer-type beast, a ray of light fell from it, signaling valuable loot. Yun felt a surge of satisfaction from defeating such a powerful creature. He was growing increasingly comfortable with his new support class, deftly combining his own strikes with Xiao's protective barriers and his undead legion. Yet, he was keenly aware that his current strength paled in comparison to his past life's prowess. Though his reversed abilities significantly boosted his attack power, the inherently low base damage of a support class still constrained him. He longed for a way to further amplify his fundamental damage. Reflecting on his other gains from the fight, he recalled the titles earned for vanquishing mighty foes. The victory also granted him another level, and he was thrilled by the substantial experience points rare elite monsters provided. Approaching the creature's remains to collect the dropped items, a notification confirmed he had secured the valuable rewards. As Yun examined the loot, his eyes widened in astonishment. He had acquired a potent weapon, a massive radiant pink crystal longsword that bestowed a staggering +552 attack power bonus. A gradual smile spread across his face as he realized this was the ideal solution to his dilemma. This single weapon would more than compensate for his class's low base attack. Equipping the sword, it transformed in his grip, morphing into a larger, more menacing blade that pulsed with dark purple energy. With this newfound strength, he felt confident that future battles would be far less challenging. However, his luck wasn't flawless. Inspecting the other dropped item, a skill book, he felt a pang of disappointment upon realizing it wasn't the gravitational pull skill he had hoped for. He surmised that the odds of that specific skill dropping were likely slim. Standing at the cliff's edge, yearning for better fortune and more opportunities to hunt high-reward wanderer monsters, his thoughts were abruptly interrupted. A brilliant red explosion resembling fireworks illuminated the distant sky, instantly capturing his attention. Yuna immediately recognized the flare wasn't an ordinary distress signal, but the unique kind used exclusively by the school's teacher teams, indicating they were in grave danger. The teachers, responding to what they believed was a student's distress call, had found themselves in a dire predicament. They had encountered a massive gathering of elite wanderer-type monsters clustered around a single cave entrance. They were baffled by why so many powerful creatures had congregated there. Soon after, Yun, Chawoja, Yun Sha, and Yunyin arrived, equally puzzled by the sheer number of monsters amassed in one location. One teacher explained that they had just arrived after spotting the signal and were still unclear on the situation. Pointing toward the cave, he noted that the signal originated from within, suggesting the students they came to rescue were trapped inside. Another teacher outlined their precarious situation. They were attempting to organize a rescue, but the monster horde was simply too vast. Even with all the teachers combined, they lacked the numbers to break through. Spotting the formidable Yun Sha and Yun Yin, a teacher turned to them for aid, stating their assistance would be invaluable for the rescue. Without hesitation, Yun Sha agreed to the teacher's plea, declaring that saving fellow students was their responsibility. She swiftly took charge of the battle, conjuring a radiant star-shaped magical artifact and casting a potent area-buffing spell, Starlight Mystic Art. The spell enveloped the teachers and students in a golden glow, significantly boosting their morale and attack power. Those who recognized the spell were astonished, identifying it as at least an epic-level skill. With her allies empowered, Yunsha turned her focus to the monster horde, unleashing a devastating gravitational pressure spell that crushed a wide swath of wanderer beasts. Simultaneously, Yun Yin entered the fray with her own lethal attack, Hidden Thorn, which obliterated a level 30 radiant crystal spike, showcasing her extraordinary power. The combined force of their attacks was awe-inspiring. The other students and teachers watched in amazement as the once invincible monster horde was decimated. One student remarked that with such power on their side, rescuing the trapped students should now be feasible, praising the remarkable strength of Yun Sha and Yun Yin. Observing the extraordinary display of power from Yun Sha and Yun Yin, Yun was deeply impressed. He noted that their equipment and skills were of the highest caliber. He concluded that with their support, the rescue would succeed effortlessly, even without his direct involvement. With the immediate threat neutralized, Yun's attention shifted to the larger mystery. As the rescue team advanced toward the cave, he pondered what could have drawn so many powerful wanderer-type monsters to this specific location. Choosing to investigate independently, he instructed Xiaoji to remain with the main group while he scouted ahead. Yuna then activated his newly enhanced ability, Mirror Walk, phasing out of reality and into the parallel mirror dimension. He observed the peculiar purple-hued landscape, noting that the dungeon's crystalline structure provided ample reflective surfaces, allowing him to enter the mirror world at will. However, he was aware of the ability's limitation. He hadn't yet mastered exiting the dimension on command, recalling how he was forcibly ejected when the timer expired during his raid on the Ding family's estate, unable to re-enter. As he navigated the mirror version of the cave, passing by the ghostly, intangible phantoms of the other adventurers, he noticed something odd. While the people had phantoms, the monsters did not. Upon closer inspection, he saw that the corpses of the monsters he had previously slain existed physically in this dimension. This observation led to a critical realization about his ability's rules. Aside from himself, living beings lacked a physical presence in the mirror world, but their dead bodies remained. Moving stealthily and unseen through the mirror dimension, Yoon followed the ghostly phantoms of the adventurers into the cave. He quickly identified them as a group of senior students, including one named Little Zed. He deduced that they were likely the ones who had attracted the massive horde of wanderer monsters and, overwhelmed, had fired the distress signal. From his vantage point, he saw they were using the cave's narrow confines to hold their ground, which should keep them safe temporarily. Yet, the central mystery persisted: what could be inside the cave to draw so many powerful creatures? He pressed deeper into the mirror version of the cave to investigate. The disorienting crystal landscape, with its endless reflections, made navigation challenging. Suddenly, he froze, his eyes widening in shock and disbelief. He had discovered something utterly unexpected, something that should not have been in a place like this at all. As Yoon ventured further into the cave within the mirror world, his eyes grew wide with awe. He had uncovered the dungeon's true prize, an enormous vein of radiant green crystal ore, glowing with an otherworldly light. Now he grasped why Little Zed and his companions had braved such dangers to reach this place. Dungeons often held unique resources absent from the real world, used to craft potent and rare equipment. These green crystals were one such treasure, far surpassing the value of gold. As he gazed at a shimmering green crystal, a notification appeared, identifying it as a mirror image crystal ore. The message confirmed he could collect it and carry it out of the mirror world, but more crucially, it offered him the option: return to the real world from here. This was a monumental revelation. To test his theory, he touched an ordinary blue crystal nearby and saw the same prompt. A sly, knowing smile spread across his face as he realized the potential of his ability. He now understood that any reflective surface could serve as his personal gateway back to the real world whenever he chose. As he wandered among the luminous green crystals, Yoon picked up a piece of the precious ore. He reflected on his newly enhanced skill, aware that its full capabilities were still largely unexplored, and that he'd need the right opportunity to study it further. For now, though, he focused on investigating the vast crystal vein before him. As he delved deeper, he was astounded by the sheer abundance of treasure. The deposit was immense, a colossal reserve that could turn any ordinary miner into a billionaire. This breathtaking discovery finally unraveled the mystery that had been nagging at him. He now knew why so many formidable wanderer-type monsters had congregated at the cave's entrance. They were drawn to, and likely guarding, this extraordinarily valuable resource. In the real world, the rescue operation was underway. Yoon unleashed powerful spells like gravitational force to crush the wanderer monsters, while Yoon complemented his efforts with her lethal dual-blade dance, slicing through the remaining foes. Not content with merely supporting her team, Yoon also demonstrated her own offensive prowess with Star Shower Art, a devastating spell that struck a wide area. The watching students and teachers were utterly shocked, wondering if all the girls' skills were of epic caliber, as their power far exceeded that of the instructors. With a final massive cross-shaped slash, the last wanderer beast at the cave's entrance was vanquished. The path was now open for the rescue team to enter and retrieve the trapped senior students, who were huddled together, exhausted but alive. As the rescue party guided them out, one of the seniors, Little Zed, expressed profound relief, admitting he thought he'd perish in the cave. But the ever-vigilant Yun Yin quickly tempered his relief, warning him not to let his guard down. She pointed out that they still had to battle their way out of the dungeon, and everyone was already weary from the previous fight. Yunshaw nodded in agreement, but added with a confident grin that, with their assistance, the escape should be far less grueling than their earlier struggle. As the rescued seniors were led out of the cave, Yunshaw's eyes suddenly widened. A look of alarm and concern crossed her face as she sensed something amiss. Her instincts were correct, as terrified screams erupted from the students behind her. The cause of their fear was a chilling sight. The path ahead, cleared just moments ago, was now teeming with an enormous horde of elite wanderer-type monsters. It was as if every wanderer in the entire dungeon had converged on this single spot, completely blocking their route to safety. While the rescue team faced the sudden resurgence of the wanderer horde in the real world, Yoon continued his solitary exploration of the mirror world. He navigated the labyrinthine paths of the crystal cave, illuminated by the eerie green glow of the special ore veins. Abruptly, he halted, his eyes widening in utter disbelief at the sight before him. He had stumbled upon a breathtaking spectacle, a massive tree-like crystal formation stretching to the cave's ceiling. At its peak, a brilliantly glowing star-shaped crystal core pulsed with immense power. He instantly recognized it as the dungeon's legendary hidden treasure. As he approached the core, he recalled tales of such artifacts. If the crystal ores were the dungeon's unique offerings, this crystal core was the ultimate reward, the dungeon's singular secret treasure. These treasures were the condensed essence of all the dungeon's special resources, formed over an unknown, immense span of time. They were so rare that most people would never encounter one in their lifetime. Most significantly, every secret treasure possessed a unique and potent special effect without fail. As Yoon reached out to touch the radiant object, he knew he had discovered the true heart of the valiant dungeon. With a delighted grin, Yoon extended his hand toward the glowing green crystal core. A system window appeared, identifying the item as the Mirror Image Crystal Core, a unique quality secret treasure. When used, it would permanently grant a plus 110 boost to stamina, a plus 0.5 increase to mana recovery speed, and a 20% reduction in damage from light and electric type attacks. The description noted that it was a replica of the true secret treasure. Yoon was elated with the find. He understood that the stamina boost would significantly enhance his maximum health, while the faster mana recovery would allow him to use his powerful Trick Blade skill more frequently, amplifying his damage output. With a clever smile, he focused on what he deemed the most critical effect, the 20% damage reduction for light and electric attacks. He knew that percentage-based damage reduction was an exceptionally rare and valuable trait, even among top-tier equipment. Better still, as a consumable secret treasure, it wouldn't occupy one of his limited equipment slots. Yet, as he held the treasure, a troubling thought struck him. He realized that, just as the crystal ores had attracted the Wanderer monsters, a secret treasure of this magnitude should logically be guarded by a creature far stronger than the Wanderers he had encountered. Choosing not to linger, he prepared to use the secret treasure and make his exit. A system window presented him with two options: to either keep the item for later use or employ it immediately. As he opted to use it, a new message popped up, unveiling an unexpected condition. Activating or taking the item would consume 10 minutes of his remaining mirror walk duration, which startled him. In the real world, just as the freed students began to feel a glimmer of relief, a deep, forceful rumbling noise abruptly shook the entire cave. The students and teachers glanced upward in fear, and even the formidable Yun Sha and Yun Yin stood frozen, their faces etched with shock and concern. From behind the massive crystal formations, a colossal new threat emerged. It was a gigantic beast, a far larger and more menacing version of the wanderer creatures they had just battled, radiating dark purple energy and dwarfing everything else in the cave. They had encountered the Lord of the Wanderer species, a formidable hidden boss within the dungeon. The teachers and students recognized the gravity of their situation. They were up against a wandering lord, a rare hidden boss distinct from the dungeon's primary boss. A creature of this caliber was far more powerful than a typical boss. This one, accompanied by its vast legion of elite minions, posed a threat they couldn't hope to defeat. Panic began to ripple through the group. One student, voice trembling with fear, exclaimed that he thought wandering lords only appeared in high-level dungeons. The spreading dread caused others to lose hope, convinced they were doomed. Just as despair threatened to unravel them, Yun Sha's steady, commanding voice pierced the chaos. She urged everyone to stay calm, emphasizing that unity was their key to escape. Taking charge, she pointed to a narrow canyon, declaring it their only exit from the basin they were trapped in. She outlined a clear strategy. If they could break through the monster line and escape the basin, their superior speed would allow them to flee easily. With a final rallying cry, she unleashed her potent starlight mystic art again, bolstering the entire group. She commanded everyone to give their all and charge toward the canyon exit. Inspired by Yun Sha's resolve, the teaching team leader, Li, sprang into action, declaring they had to ensure the students' safety at all costs. He activated his light-refracting shield and announced that the teachers would rotate leading the assault, with him taking the first charge. He plunged into the monster horde to carve a path, with the other teachers and students following closely, their combined attacks forming a powerful surge forward. Support class members cast healing and protective spells on the frontline fighters, ensuring they could keep advancing. Encircled on all sides, the group formed a tight defensive ring, inching steadily toward the canyon exit as the teachers urged them to persevere. Just when it seemed they might break through, the massive wandering lord intervened. It unleashed a thunderous roar, a skill known as battlecry rally. In response, the ordinary crystal monsters scattered throughout the dungeon, previously dormant, suddenly stirred and began advancing toward the basin. They flooded into the canyon, their overwhelming numbers creating a seemingly endless wave of new foes that completely surrounded the trapped rescue party. The students and teachers could only watch in despair as their escape route was blocked by thousands of new monsters, wondering where they had all come from. The already dire situation worsened. The towering Wandering Lord activated a new ability called Crystal Aura. A vast red aura enveloped all nearby monsters, granting them a massive 20% boost to their health, attack strength, and defense. The frontline students were instantly overwhelmed, crying out in shock at the sudden surge in the monster's attack power. The enhanced horde claimed its first casualty. A teacher was struck by multiple energy beams, screaming that the damage was too severe to heal before he was utterly defeated by the onslaught and killed. A nearby student yelled in horror, announcing that a teacher had fallen. As panic threatened to shatter their resolve, Yun Sha took command once more. She ordered the shield guards to the front to form a defensive barrier, and instructed the priests to focus their healing on the shield bearers to keep them upright. Despite her firm orders, Yun Sha knew their situation was grim. She realized everyone was already exhausted, barely holding on. Most terrifyingly, she understood that the Wandering Lord itself had not yet fully engaged, and they were already being pushed to their limits by its empowered minions alone. Even with their greatest efforts, the combined forces of the students and teachers were no match for the strengthened, unending swarm of monsters. One teacher, his face grim, remarked that their efforts were futile and that they couldn't possibly break through at this pace. Seeing that a group defense was hopeless, one cowardly teacher decided to abandon the group. He activated a stealth skill, declaring it was every man for himself. He attempted to slip past the monsters and escape alone. The teacher, Lee, shouted after him, warning that his stealth skill wouldn't last long enough to get him to safety. His warning proved tragically accurate. The fleeing teacher was quickly spotted by a smaller, turtle-like crystal monster that emerged from the ground, blocking his path. As the teacher froze in terror, the massive Wandering Lord, which had been observing the battle until now, finally acted. It fired a devastating beam of pure energy that struck the ground where the lone teacher stood. The teacher was instantly obliterated, reduced to ashes by the overwhelming force of the Lord's attack. The blast was so powerful that it not only killed the teacher, but also collapsed the entire canyon, sealing the only escape route with a massive rock slide. The remaining students and teachers could only stare in horror at the terrifying display of power. One of them, his face a mask of despair, stammered that escape was no longer possible. Having blocked their only exit, the towering Wandering Lord turned its attention to the trapped adventurers, its crystal eyes glowing as it charged another devastating energy beam. A student screamed in utter despair, convinced they were next and that it was over. With no way to evade the attack, the group braced for the inevitable, knowing they couldn't possibly block such a massive blast. But at the last moment, a student summoned a colossal, ornate giant shield that appeared before them. The shield, an epic quality level 70 item called the Rock Mountain Shield, boasted immense defense and resistance. The Lord's energy beam crashed into the giant shield with tremendous force, pushing it back and threatening to shatter it. The teachers and stronger students rushed forward to brace the shield, knowing that if it fell, they were all doomed. Yunsha, her face taut with effort, explained their desperate plan. The shield was a level 70 item, so its durability was undoubtedly high. However, its high-level requirement meant no one in the group was strong enough to properly equip it and access its stat bonuses. They had to physically hold the massive, unwieldy object in place with their own strength. She knew this was only a temporary fix, a desperate measure to buy a little time. As the students and teachers strained to hold the line against the Wandering Lord's assault, their morale began to crumble. One of the rescued seniors questioned why a monster of such power was even in the school's dungeon. Another student, his face a mix of terror and anger, turned on the teachers, blaming them for their plight and questioning why they had been brought there in the first place. A teacher, his expression grave, wondered if their long struggle to save the trapped students had been in vain. The teacher, Lei, looked on with a pained expression, finding solace only in the thought that at least the two younger students, Yun and Xiaoju, were safe and wouldn't face this danger. His assumption was immediately proven wrong. To his utter shock, Xiaoju suddenly appeared at his side, pushing him out of the way of an incoming attack. Lei couldn't fathom how the boy, who was supposed to be waiting by the valley, had reached them so quickly. As another beast struck, Lei yelled a caution. Xiaoju swiftly responded, calling out his technique, Barrier Shield, to safeguard the instructor. Yet, the creature's assault was overwhelming, smashing through Xiaoju's protections and fracturing the team's boundary. With their structure shattered and their primary defender wounded, the group stood utterly exposed. No one remained to halt the oncoming Wanderer horde. With their protective barrier broken, the team was defenseless, unable to stop the advancing Wanderer beasts. In a bold act of courage, Xiaoji charged alone at the creatures, managing to fend off several fierce strikes and shielding the wounded teacher, Lele Li. The instructor gazed in astonishment, marveling at how the young student he once deemed worthless possessed such remarkable power. But Xiaoji's lone stand wasn't enough. The other shield warriors' defenses were entirely crushed, their whole protective line obliterated. Xiaoji himself was ultimately overwhelmed, his armor splintering as a mighty strike sent him hurtling backward. He lay on the ground, bloodied and defeated, as the beasts readied their final blow. Witnessing their last defense collapse, one of the instructors, his face drenched in sweat and fear, declared their plight utterly hopeless. Just as the creatures were poised to overwhelm the vulnerable group, a flash of movement sliced through the turmoil. To the teacher's awe, Yun emerged, perched atop the corpse of a vanquished beast. He wielded his enormous glowing crystal longsword, his gaze radiating a chilling, lethal calm. He glanced at his battered and bleeding comrade Xiaoji, commending his valor. Then, turning to the horde of monsters, his voice brimming with unwavering confidence, he declared, "Leave the rest to me." A while back, in the Mirror Realm, Yun stood before the shimmering crystal core. He realized that since he had discovered the duplicate, the original real-world version must still be out there. This meant that with his Mirror Realm ability, he could essentially double his yield of any precious resource. Yet, he was aware of the constraints. He had collected 75 pieces of the rare crystal ore, but transporting them all out would demand 750 minutes of mirror walk time, far exceeding his available limit. He knew that, like the crystal core, each ore piece required 10 minutes to extract. Confronted with this restriction, he made a decision. He would claim the real-world crystal core, but for now, he would utilize the Mirror Realm's replica to gain its potent enhancements immediately. A system alert verified that he had activated both the real and mirrored cores, doubling his stat boosts and granting him a formidable 40% resistance to light and electric damage. After activating the core, while standing atop the enormous crystal structure in the real world, he suddenly felt a powerful tremor ripple through the cave. His eyes widened in concern as he detected the unfamiliar disturbance. Curious about the cause, he sprang into action, leaping off the crystal formation to locate the source of the commotion. As he jumped, Yun chose to test his newfound ability to exit the Mirror Realm at will. He phased through the crystal walls, re-entering the parallel dimension, and noted he still had nearly 13 minutes of mirror walk time remaining. With a self-assured grin, he confirmed a crucial aspect of his power. As long as he had mirror walk time left, he could freely enter and exit the dimension. The ability would only enter cooldown once the time was fully depleted. He tested this immediately, phasing back through the crystal walls and successfully returning to the real world. Upon his return, however, he was met with a startling sight. The number of monsters had surged dramatically, far beyond what the crystal ore alone could account for. Looming above them was the colossal Wandering Lord. Yun finally realized that this creature was the true source of the ominous feeling he had sensed from the start. Recognizing the immense threat, his first thought was for his friend. He knew Shai and the others were in grave peril, but with his newfound mastery over the Mirror Realm, a new strategy began to take shape. Knowing he could now freely shift between dimensions, he saw an opportunity to outmaneuver the seemingly invincible boss. With his enhanced control over his ultimate skill, Yun devised a fresh tactic. He began phasing in and out of the Mirror Realm, using the alternate dimension to swiftly reposition, effortlessly dodging the monster's attacks before reappearing in the real world to strike. This hit-and-run approach proved highly effective. After defeating several elite monsters, he reached level 24. He paused to assess his new abilities, calculating that with his boosted mana and the doubled mana regeneration from the crystal cores, he could now stack his Blade of Trickery skill to achieve a massive 330% boost to his attack power. Yet, Yun remained pragmatic. He knew that despite his impressive strength, it was still insufficient to confront the giant Wandering Lord, a creature more formidable than a standard dungeon boss. He decided he would need to reach at least level 30 to have a genuine shot at victory, and he was still far from that goal. The narrative then shifts back to the dire situation in the real world, where the students and teachers faced imminent death. Just as hope seemed lost, Yun emerged from the mirror realm for the final time, materializing in the heart of the battlefield. Standing atop a fallen monster's body, he gazed at his battered but valiant friend, Jiao Ji, and commended his bravery. With unwavering resolve, he told his friend to leave the rest to him, prepared to face the vast horde of monsters alone. Emerging from the mirror realm for the last time, Yun landed solidly on the ground, ready for battle. He immediately took command, instructing those with support skills to enhance him while he confronted the Wanderer horde. Yunsha and Shaoi responded instantly. The skilled high-level student unleashed her Starlight Mystic art, while Qiao Ji cast his defensive Surround Shield and Shield Armor. Both abilities significantly boosted Yun's spirit and attack power. Now empowered, Yun became a whirlwind of devastation. His massive crystal longsword sliced through clusters of elite monsters with ease. He knew that although the enemy numbers were overwhelming, he was no longer in true danger. After activating the 2 crystal core treasures, his health was several times greater, and his 40% damage reduction against the monster's light and electric attacks made him exceptionally resilient. His only annoyance was that the monsters were immune to the confusion effect of his chaotic thorn skill, which would have sped up their defeat. The other students and teachers could only watch in stunned silence. The teacher, Li, and the other seniors, who had once underestimated him, were in utter disbelief. They checked his status bar and confirmed he was a support class chanter, but they couldn't comprehend how his attack power was so immense, or what unusual skill allowed him to seemingly teleport across the battlefield by phasing through the mirror realm. Li, his arm bleeding from a prior wound, watched with a mix of shock and admiration. He couldn't believe the younger student he had been so concerned about was this powerful. With his enhanced strength and durability, Yun became an unstoppable force, tearing through the endless swarm of elite Wanderer monsters. The sheer volume of high-quality enemies provided an extraordinary amount of experience, and he found himself leveling up at an astonishing rate. Yunsha, who had previously identified him as the intruder at the Ding residence, could only watch in awe. She had initially thought he was merely a daring thief, but now she had to acknowledge that his strength far surpassed anything she could have imagined. Yun Yin was equally astonished, left speechless by the incredible display of power from the boy who shared her surname. Yun continued his relentless assault, phasing in and out of the mirror realm to maneuver and strike. His movements a blur of violet energy, he gained level after level, swiftly reaching level 28. The other students and teachers, who had been on the brink of death moments earlier, were utterly shocked. One teacher, Li, wondered if Yun was some sort of high-level external support, but then recalled seeing him before, and realized he was a student. His companion, Little Zed, was even more stunned, unable to believe a mere student could wield such immense power. Despite Yun's extraordinary performance, the Wandering Lord remained a colossal threat. As the giant beast prepared to unleash another devastating energy beam, the students and teachers cried out in alarm. Yun, his expression grave, knew that even with his recent power-ups, he could not withstand a direct hit from that attack. As the Wandering Lord advanced, its energy beam still blazing, the students and teachers behind their makeshift shield wall knew their time was running out. Once the giant beast drew closer, the 2 shields would be insufficient to protect them. The teacher, Lei, seeing that Yun had significantly reduced the number of smaller monsters, shouted for everyone to break out and head for the other exit. He knew that no matter how strong the mysterious student was, he couldn't face the Wandering Lord alone. However, his plan was immediately challenged. One student pointed out the issue. The 2 massive shields were too difficult to move. If they abandoned them to flee, they would be entirely vulnerable to the Lord's devastating attacks. Another student noted that the shields were too heavy to carry and could only be stored in an inventory, which none of them could manage. Just as their debate grew heated, a calm voice cut through the chaos, urging them to leave it to him. It was Yun. He outlined a selfless new plan. He would engage the Wandering Lord to draw its attention, giving the others a chance to escape. The teacher, Lei, was stunned by his sacrifice, asking what would happen to Yun if they all fled. Yun explained his reasoning. He knew from his past life that if a wandering lord wasn't defeated, it would eventually rally all the dungeon's monsters and venture into the outside world, causing a catastrophic disaster. With a look of resolute determination, he declared that he would stay behind and slay the beast himself. He activated his Blade of Trickery, boosting his attack power by an immense 350%, and noted that he still had over 5 minutes of mirror walk time, giving him the ideal tool to confront the giant enemy. As Yun prepared to face the wandering lord alone, the teacher Li made the difficult decision to lead the others in a retreat. He urged them to escape quickly, reasoning that no matter how strong Yun was, he would eventually tire against such a formidable foe. He figured that the sooner they escaped, the sooner Yun could also retreat. When a student questioned Yun's bold claim that he could defeat the Lord, Lei suggested it was merely a brave act to reassure them, knowing the true power of a wandering lord. As he was forced to flee with the group, Chao felt utterly powerless. He looked back with a sorrowful expression, hating that all he could do in such a moment was run while his friend faced unimaginable danger. Silently, he prayed for Yun's safety. Meanwhile, Yun was far from helpless. He continued battling through the smaller monsters, growing stronger with each kill, and quickly gained another level. As the massive Wandering Lord fired its powerful energy beam, Yun used his mirror walk to phase out of reality. The beam passed harmlessly through the space where he had just stood. He reappeared behind the creature and struck it with a mighty slash from his radiant blade. Yet, the blow revealed a harsh reality. The Wandering Lord, a level 42 stone golem, possessed such formidable defense and a potent regeneration ability that the minor damage he inflicted was instantly mended. He understood that at his current level, his efforts were futile, its defenses were simply too robust. As he evaded the Wandering Lord's assaults, Yun's initial observations confirmed his suspicions. He noticed a prominent crystal embedded in the creature's head, clearly its core and its vulnerable spot. The challenge was reaching it. Even with his array of enhancements, his attack strength remained insufficient to pierce the golem's sturdy defenses and rapid healing. To complicate matters, time was slipping away. A glance at his status revealed that the potent buffs he'd received from his allies were beginning to fade. His own mana reserves were critically low, and he knew his powerful Blade of Trickery skill couldn't be sustained much longer. He concluded he had only one viable path forward. He needed to grow stronger. He had to level up by defeating weaker foes first. Just as he prepared to target the smaller creatures again, a brilliant ray of light burst from a nearby fissure in the rock. Yun's eyes widened in recognition of the glow. At that very moment, the massive Wandering Lord also detected the light and, with a terrifying display of cunning, unleashed a devastating energy beam toward the crevice. Yun swiftly phased into the mirror world to escape the blast, but upon reappearing, he was stunned to find the beam aimed precisely at his re-entry point. With a shock, he realized the intelligent boss had anticipated his movements. Learning his pattern, forced to materialize in the real world amid the Wandering Lord's colossal energy beam, Yun was engulfed by the attack. The relentless, sustained assault rapidly depleted his health, despite his formidable defenses. He knew using his mirror walk to dodge was no longer an option. With less than 4 minutes of it remaining, the continuous attack would exhaust it instantly. His only recourse was to summon his undead army to absorb the damage. Yet, he recognized this was a costly strategy. Reviving his summons would drain his already scarce mana, leaving him with nothing to bolster his attack for a counterstrike. He began to consider whether retreating to regroup was the wiser choice. Just as he teetered on the brink of defeat, another powerful blast intercepted the Wandering Lord's attack. To his astonishment, he saw Yun Sha, Yun Yin, and even Shao Ji returning to the fray. Yun Sha, with a teasing grin, explained that his little brother, referring to Shao Ji, had practically begged them to come back and assist. Shao Ji, turning away, quickly denied begging, clarifying that with the number of smaller monsters reduced, the rest of the group could now escape independently, freeing him to return and help. Hearing his friend's courageous choice, a genuine smile of gratitude crossed Yun's face as he simply said, "Thank you." With their team now reinforced, Yun Sha took charge. She warned Yun that the hidden boss remained too dangerous, and that she and the others would cover him for a gradual retreat. But Yun firmly rejected her plan. He declared that with their support, he no longer needed to hold back and unleashed his full power. With his allies' aid, he continued farming the smaller monsters until his mirror walk duration finally expired, just as he reached the critical level of 30. Now at his target level, he knew his attack strength was sufficient to confront the Wandering Lord. He promptly equipped the rare level 30 Corrupted Knight's armor, acquired from the Ding family's dungeon, which significantly bolstered his defenses. Yunsha observed, questioning if he truly intended to target the golem's weak point on its head. She noted that reaching such a height was impossible, but Yun was already ahead of her. He revealed he had obtained the tool he'd long desired, the gravitational pull skill book, looted from one of the Wanderer monsters. This skill allowed its user to draw a target object toward them. More crucially, its reversed form, gravitational traction, pulled the user toward the target, with the pull intensifying the lower the user's strength. With this new mobility skill, the golem's weak point was no longer out of reach. Activating his blade of trickery, he rapidly amplified his attack power, and, with a confident smile, assured the others that he had everything under control. With his strategy set and his power fully charged, Yun extended a hand enveloped in purple energy, targeting the Wandering Lord's head. He then triggered gravitational traction, and a tremendous force seized him, propelling him forward at incredible speed. He rocketed through the air, shattering the rocky terrain as he hurtled toward the colossal creature. In a breathtaking display of skill and might, he landed precisely on the Wandering Lord's head, positioning himself beside its glowing crystal core, his radiant sword crackling with energy, poised to strike. Below, Yunsha and Yunyin, who had just declared reaching that height impossible, could only gaze upward, their faces etched with sheer astonishment and disbelief at the improbable feat he had accomplished. Now, at the Wandering Lord's weak point, Yun unleashed his full strength. He plunged his heavily enhanced sword deep into the glowing crystal core, sending a network of cracks radiating across its surface. The massive creature, however, refused to fall without resistance. In its final moments, it unleashed a tremendous explosion of pure energy from its core, a desperate attempt to destroy its attacker. Caught at the heart of the blast, Yun's health plummeted as a barrage of notifications confirmed the massive ongoing damage he was taking. Yet, his enhanced defenses and increased health held firm. Gritting his teeth, he endured the onslaught. When the light finally dimmed, he stood battered but alive. As the Wandering Lord's crystalline body shattered into countless fragments, a series of notifications confirmed his extraordinary triumph. He had vanquished the Wandering Lord, earning a colossal 5,0 experience points, and the prestigious title of Wanderer Killer. More significantly, the hidden boss dropped 2 legendary quality skill books, Golden Light Shield and Angel's Protection. With a final, devastating blow to the core of the Wandering Lord, Yun unleashed all his accumulated energy. The colossal beast shattered into countless fragments, and the surge of energy and experience propelled him 3 levels higher, reaching level 33. The onlookers, students and teachers alike, stood in awestruck silence. Chao could only marvel at how formidable his friend had become, while Yunyin and Yunsha were astounded that he had single-handedly defeated such a terrifying creature. Amid the cascade of debris, Yun noticed 2 radiant beams of golden light emerging from the monster's remains. He had acquired 2 legendary quality items. But before he could examine his new treasures, he had to leap to safety as the massive, headless corpse of the Wandering Lord began to collapse. Yunsha called out a warning. Realizing Yun was still atop the falling giant, he navigated the disintegrating remains with expert agility, vaulting from one fragment to another until he landed securely on the ground. As the dust cleared, a vast opening appeared in the mountainside where the Lord had fallen. The interior revealed a hollow, dark cave littered with the skeletal remains of both wanderer monsters and humans. Surveying the ancient battlefield, Yun came to a grave realization. A far older, more powerful Wandering Lord must have originated here long ago. This explained the numerous battle scars etched across the dungeon. As he gazed into the hollow mountain, Yun's attention was drawn to a solitary figure silhouetted against the faint light at the summit. His heart raced as he recognized the armored warrior, frozen in a defiant stance, greatsword planted firmly in the ground. A sister message confirmed the unthinkable. It was the body of Chia Nen, known by his nickname, Xiao Benben. Yun whispered his friend's name in disbelief. The other students and teachers soon arrived, equally stunned by the sight. Yun Sha, her voice filled with reverence, identified the figure as the infamous traitor Zine. She admitted that while she knew this was where he had been slain by the hero Ding Kun, she never imagined the scene would be so striking. The battlefield bore witness to a desperate final stand against countless foes. She remarked that the heroic, unyielding figure before them was nothing like the statue in the Modern History Memorial Hall, which depicted him being trampled. This, she declared, did not resemble someone who could be so easily defeated. Yun remained silent, his face etched with grief and sorrow as he gazed at his fallen friend's remains. Xiaoyi, Chao's great-grandson, finally spoke up. He told Yun that, though he might not believe it, he now felt his great-grandfather might not have been a villain after all. Standing before his ancestors' remains, Xiaoji began to share the truth he had uncovered. He explained that he had spent his childhood poring over historical records about his great-grandfather, but the accounts of his deeds were always frustratingly vague. Despite this, he had pieced together key details. He learned that his great-grandfather had a habit of entering dungeons far below his skill level. This raised a crucial question. Why would an S-rank professional, someone over level 60, venture into a low-level dungeon like this? Xiaoji answered his own query with newfound conviction. It was because this dungeon was one of the rare places capable of spawning a wandering lord, a creature that could rally all the dungeon's monsters and lead them into the outside world, triggering a catastrophic event. He explained that in those days, the government lacked enough soldiers to counter the relentless threat of monsters emerging from dungeons. They depended on a handful of powerful, dutiful professionals to routinely eliminate the most dangerous threats. His great-grandfather, he proclaimed with pride, was one of those heroes. He hadn't been a traitor. He had come to this dungeon to prevent a disaster before it could begin. As Yun listened quietly to this revelation, Xiaoji's confidence began to waver. He admitted that others likely thought he was fabricating the story, and even his own family believed he was merely seeking comfort by twisting ambiguous historical texts to fit a narrative he wanted to believe. Just as he was about to lose hope, a hand gently rested on his shoulder. He looked up to see Yun, a warm, understanding smile on his face, who simply said, "I believe you." Yun Sha and Yun Yin watched with expressions of shock and admiration, while Chao was utterly overwhelmed, rendered speechless by Yun's heartfelt declaration. A wave of memories flooded Yun as he recalled his fallen comrade, Chao Benben, whose heroic legacy had been so cruelly distorted. He remembered Chao's youthful bravado, boasting that his natural talent meant he needed no mentor, and would soon surpass Yun. But he also recalled the boy's panic when he found himself overwhelmed, crying out for his master to save him from a horde of monsters, only to stubbornly deny needing help afterward, his pride wounded. He remembered his friend's habit of training in secret, only to flaunt his newfound strength before others, and how he always chose the weakest shield-bearer class, the sword guard, because no other shield class was swift enough to match Yun's reckless assaults. He recalled how he always seemed to find Chao Benben, even when he tried to slip away to grind levels alone, and how his friend would make excuses, claiming he couldn't resist a good fight, and that saving people was just something he did in passing. Fueled by a renewed sense of purpose and a burning desire for justice, Yun gazed at his friend's remains. He vowed that for Chao Benben's sake, he would settle the score with the Ding family, who had caused his friend's suffering after his death. At the Ding family residence, Ding Shu recounted the dungeon expedition to his skeptical father and uncle. He insisted his account was true, that Yun was truly extraordinary, and they could verify it with the teacher in charge. He explained that he had initially been barred from entering the dungeon due to his low level, but he waited outside until the survivors emerged. The scene shifted to the students exiting the dungeon, abuzz with excitement. They had witnessed the fall of the colossal wandering lord from afar, and were in awe of the person who had defeated a rare hidden boss over level 40 feet beyond their wildest imagination. Dingshu, overhearing their chatter, confirmed that the hero's name was Yun. He couldn't fathom that someone even mightier than the renowned Yun Yin had been among the students, and he wondered about Yun's true identity. Back in the present, after hearing his son's report, the third head, Ding Gai, sat in silence for a moment. Then he rose from his seat and issued a chilling command to assemble the Ding family guards and head to the traitor's dungeon, the very place where Xiaoan had perished. His brother, Ding Yi, halted him, recalling a detail from Ding Shu's earlier report about intruders at their home. With a sinister glint in his eyes, he instructed his brother to bring members of the Chao family along as well. Meanwhile, back in the dungeon, Yun examined one of the legendary skill books he had obtained from the Wandering Lord, the Golden Light Shield. Without hesitation, he offered the powerful book to Xiaoji, suggesting he learn it since it had no level requirement. Yun Sha, observing them, was stunned. She questioned why he would so readily give away a legendary skill. Yun calmly explained that the skill was exclusive to shield-bearers, rendering it useless to him. He then shared a crucial detail, hinting that Xiaoji's great-grandfather Chia likely employed this very technique in his era. Touched by this revelation, Xiaoji accepted the book. Yun Sha observed with a thoughtful expression. She remarked that while Choji might lack an array of potent abilities, Yun certainly possessed an abundance of them. She confessed that, despite her own skills being deemed advanced, she felt she lagged far behind him, citing his ability to seemingly vanish and reappear, and his power to call forth a vast number of undead beings. Her mention of the undead caused Yun's demeanor to grow grave, his eyes glowing with intensity. He abruptly recalled a vital aspect of his power. His undead summons were formed from souls he encountered in the mirror world. This sparked a profound realization. If other souls also journeyed to the mirror world after death, then perhaps his old friend Xiao Wen's soul lingered there too. After this sudden insight, a mix of anxious excitement flashed across Yun's face. A system notification confirmed that his mirror walk ability was ready again, granting him a full 30 minutes to navigate the mirror world. He immediately pondered whether he could seize this opportunity to locate his old friend's soul. With a resolute expression, he activated the skill. His body was enveloped in a familiar purple glow. Stepping into the otherworldly blue-green expanse of the mirror world, he discovered what he sought: a formidable ghostly figure clad in full armor, exuding a serene yet powerful presence. Overwhelmed with emotion, Yun whispered the nickname of his fallen comrade, Qiao Benben, confirming that his friend's soul had indeed been waiting there all this time. Back in the real world, time had slipped by, and Yun Yin approached Yun Sha, reminding her that they needed to depart soon for her important audience ceremony. Yun Sha seemed reluctant, admitting they'd lingered there for some time, but the unfolding events were far more captivating. Her gaze drifted to where Yun had been, and she mused aloud to the others about what he could be doing and why he'd been absent for so long, unaware of the reunion unfolding in another dimension. Within the mirror world, Yun stood with a solemn expression. He spoke to the armored soul of his old friend Xiao Ben, expressing disbelief that they could reunite. He mentioned having so much he wished to share with him. However, the reunion was abruptly interrupted. He noted with sorrow that it was unfortunate his friend couldn't respond, as the tranquil spirit was suddenly overtaken by a dark, malevolent energy, transforming it into a monstrous, roaring undead creature. Yuno realized, with a heavy heart, that his friend had truly become an undead entity, driven by instinct rather than memory. He admitted he had no desire to fight him, but saw no alternative. He propelled himself into the air, evading an attack and preparing for a challenging battle. As their clash began, Yun's eyes glowed with purple energy as he focused on his adversary. During the fight, something peculiar occurred. Yun found himself surrounded by floating crystal fragments, each displaying a different scene. He recognized them as moments from Benben's life and experiences. One fragment particularly drew his attention, depicting a vivid memory of Benben's final battle against the man known as the hero, Ding Gun. As he observed the memory of the fight, Yun noticed something strange about Ding Gun's stance and combat style, finding it oddly familiar. Suddenly, the entire mirrored landscape around them shattered like glass. When the fragments settled, Yun saw that the monstrous undead form had disappeared, leaving only the serene, armored soul of Xiao Wen standing before him once more. He was utterly bewildered, questioning what had just transpired. Still trapped in the mirror world, Yun cautiously called out his friend's name again. only for the calm soul of Chowan to once more erupt into a monstrous, roaring, undead creature brandishing a shadowy purple energy blade. Yun parried the fierce assault, his expression grave as he grasped the truth. The two then engaged in a frenzied battle, their purple energy-charged strikes colliding with tremendous force. Yun understood that his friend was truly gone, with only his raw combat instincts remaining in this malevolent form. Seeing no purpose in battling the husk of his friend, he decided to retreat. However, when he attempted to leave, a system message appeared, informing him that he could not exit the mirror world from his current location. A wave of frustration surged through him. With no other option, he accepted that he would have to fight. Meanwhile, back in the real world, Chaoji stood alone, a look of shocked resolve on his face as he clenched his fist. His solitude was interrupted by the arrival of a large group led by Ding Gai and Ding Yi. One of them questioned why Chaoji was by himself and speculated aloud if Yuni had sensed their approach and fled in fear. Dinga looked down at the boy with a smug smirk, remarking that this was only half the amusement. Xiaoji, attempting to feign ignorance, asked Ding Shu why he had come and whether he was also there to level up. Ding scoffed at the pretense, telling the young Chao family member to stop acting innocent. He directly accused Xiaoji of being the one who aided Yun in sneaking into his house and stealing their property. When Xiaoju attempted to deny it, Ding Shu leaned in menacingly, asking if he thought he wouldn't recognize the sound of his screams. The threat sent a shiver down Xiaoji's spine, his face paling with fear. Dismissing the matter with a cruel wave of his hand, Ding Gai declared with a sinister grin that none of that mattered now, as he had brought Xiaoji a little surprise,